Okay, this is the county council work session, Thursday, May 30th, 2024. We will not take any votes tonight. We will not have any public meeting, public speaking. This is just to go over what we will vote on Tuesday night. So, does anybody have any questions on the minutes of May 5th?
Yeah, do roll call first. Yeah.
Okay, roll call, when you're all here. Okay, roll call, put your hand. Everybody there.
Scott Glover.
Here.
Here. Dick Morrow. Here. Carl McKay.
Present.
Connie Reed. Here.
Okay, now let's go back to the minutes. Does anybody have a question or any discussion on the minutes? You in agreement with them? All right, I take that as everybody's okay. Budget and finance, discuss April 2024 financial statement. Have you had a chance to look at that, and if so, do we need to discuss?
I know I've had some questions about the business tax, but it's not showing up on here. But, you know, I had said down May and June before we did the biggest portion. So, we did get like $35,000 this month for business tax.
So that will be added to the 12,000?
Yeah, right.
So
we're doing
35
good.
plus 12, 47, okay, that's good, that's good.
And then there's a new tax, I don't know if y'all noticed it. I think this is the first time it has showed up on the financial. It's called the State Modern City Transport Tax. And what that is, it's an additional electric vehicle registration fee starting January 1st, 2024. And a portion of these fees are allocated to the municipalities. That's what that is.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that
Yeah.
again?
Okay, it's called the State Modern City Transport Tax. And what it is, it established an additional electric vehicle registration fee, and it started January 1st of 2024, and a portion of these fees are allocated to municipalities.
So the municipality doesn't have to do the registration?
No. Okay. I'm assuming that that's probably done through the county clerk's office, but I'm not real sure.
Is this all we'll get of this year, or is it like paid every, do you know?
Well, I never have gotten on anything on how often we get it. I would say it's probably a monthly or quarterly, but I'm not real sure yet.
This is the first we've got.
That's the first we've gotten.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the rest of it, we're going to have, you know, we've got an amendment on some of these things. This is April. This is not May and June. This is April. And this one other thing that I was going to send out extra.
Are you ready to talk about the amendment tonight, or is that something?
Yeah, it's coming up on the agenda.
Okay.
Then we have a next on the agenda, the amendment, you know, y'all get.
Yeah.
Get ready to do
Yeah,
that.
I think someone was still looking at it.
So, from what you told us last month about March and the direction that the budget was going, has anything changed? Anything better?
Well, I'm saying as far as revenue, it's sales tax. We're not going to be able to collect what we budgeted for. And then as far as expenditures, that will be in, we'll go with that just in a few minutes. But nothing else, I mean, I was worried about the business tax, but it's coming in up, it came in this month. It's really hard to tell until you get all your, but I mean, like with the sales tax, I know for sure we won't get that. And I'm talking about local, not the state.
Yeah, it looks like the state, I would feel like maybe we'll get that.
Yeah, I think we will too.
Yeah,
We're already,
we got 2 more
in
months.
April, was it 90.46%,
Yeah.
so.
What is payment in lieu of property taxes?
That's what the electric department pays, instead of paying property tax for their lines they have on their roads, or pipes, or the electric department, they make a payment in the tax. Rather than paying property tax, they make it's more like a utility type tax.
May I ask questions as far as the amendment in connection with this? I'm not sure if that's appropriate timing yet or not, but I was just very curious that the utilities for the fire department was up $30,000.
We'll discuss that in a minute.
Okay, I mean, don't get me wrong, my utilities went up too.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have any more questions on the April financial statement?
So again, what are the areas that you expect the largest amount to still come in for May and June?
Well, May and June will be, of course, our intergovernmental revenue.
Okay.
And then, of course, you're gonna still get your wholesale beer tax, wholesale alcohol tax. We'll should get another check for a cable TV franchise fee too. And also, let me look that through here. Oh, TVA, we'll probably get another one for that too.
And you said the state sales tax, you think that's going to come
I think
through pretty much?
I think we're gonna be okay on the state sales tax. Because we're already at 90.46%. That's the level.
I think the one thing that we probably might take a hit on would be the local option sales tax. We'll probably take a hit on that.
You said business taxes you're not worried about?
No. We got enough to cover what we budgeted as of this month, as of May.
Tax, we're a little bit, about 5,000 ahead on it.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. And we're ahead on delinquent taxes, we collect more.
Wholesale beer tax, maybe you go buy more beer?
And everybody needs to start drinking more beer.
If you have to drink it, just buy it.
You gotta buy it first, don't you?
That could have had repercussions, make our police have overtime if we drink some beer.
We're ahead, we did very well on rural fire service this time.
Yeah, but, we went up on the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Just not that many more actually paid, it's just where we went up on the.
Yeah, we increased the fees, right?
Right.
So, looks like we're doing well in our expenditures. Do we expect those totals to go up as well, or are we still spending more money?
We're still spending money, but we're gonna amend some of that here in a minute.
We're gonna cut them out of the checkbooks. Cut them out. No more purchase orders. No. Okay, are we ready to move on down?
Mayor, if I could,
amended budget was on both sides of the paper, and we only printed the top part, so Vicky's gone to make those changes.
Okay.
You can either, if y'all want to talk about the financial statements, or if you want to go down and talk about the trash pickup, and then we come back to it, whatever you want to do. That may be her coming out right now.
Let's see.
Yes, it is. Take one, that's the new budget. You ready for me to talk? On the amended budget, state law requires that we only, as long as we do not, we have to amend the appropriations, we don't have to amend the revenue, so we just did that. Under general fund, under utilities, we amended that from 44 to 46. Property insurance, it went up from 25,000 to 28,706. When you budget for insurance, you just don't know, because it's a pool, according to how many claims they have in a year for what.
When you say a pool, what do you mean?
That they pull all their money together, correct me if I'm wrong.
For the state?
No, it's not.
Well, it's for local governments. So there's really two major insurance providers for local governments. It's PDP and the pool is what it's called. I think we use the pool, right?
Right.
So it's like 100+ municipalities all collectively having insurance. And that agency provides it just for governments. So it's actually lower than,
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm asking, the 28,096, is that, would you say that that's because other local towns, local
They might
governments
have more,
had more claims than we did, so we're having to kind of bear the cost of its shares? So there's not really, I would think,
It's not
an
anything we've
accurate
done.
way.
Yeah, it's not anything we've done.
Yeah,
We
okay.
haven't had any property claims.
Okay,
And that's always, we've already paid that.
okay.
That's it. So that'd be amending the general government from 1,162,455 to 1,168,161. All right, then going down to city court, other contributions. I know that's going to really stand out. 6,000 is what we budgeted. We've amended to 24,552, but that's like, that's a wash. We've had a lot of return bonds lately. We get it in revenue, but after they come to court, and, if the court cost and everything is less than what they may bond for, then we have to refund them the bond money. So that's what the biggest bulk of that is.
So we showed it in revenue?
It's in revenues, yeah.
But then we had to pay it back.
But even though we got the revenues, but even, we still have to amend this appropriation.
Sure, we pay that, okay.
Yeah.
And those are people who are paying their full bond, not going and getting a bond.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
have
A full
a
bond.
$2,000 bond, you pay $2,000 and the court holds it until
Yeah.
your case is concluded and you get the money back minus your court costs. That's not as normal, but for smaller things it is. You're not going to typically do that with a $100,000 bond.
Yeah.
And
You will
plus
be
I
fine.
added in there, we had to, refund somebody a little over $13,000 for the day in the bond. That's included in there. Yeah.
That's going to be a big part of it.
Yes. Okay, let's see. Police department, overtime salaries, we didn't anything in planning and zoning. Police department, overtime salaries from 50,000 to 56. A lot of that's due, we've been short police officers, I think they're having to work overtime, working holidays and that such a thing. Repair and maintenance, which we've been talking about, it was budgeted for 1,033.8. The police cars are going to be in the budget to buy new police cars due to the fact that they're starting to have a lot of repair and maintenance. I think this last month I had to pay like a $6,000-something bill, and then I think we've had it's always around $1,000 whenever they have something other than regular oil change and that sort of thing. Machinery and equipment. Where's my friend Chris? Okay, Chris, I told you I understood it, but now I'm just blank. But anyway, we budgeted $55,082, and we had to bump it up to $82,305. What that is, it's the mobile dispatching, and Chris, do you mind explaining to me?
No, ma'am, I don't.
And this is going to be the same with the fire department too, why it is up.
Dispatching, whenever they estimate our dispatching fees per call, they actually go back a year and a half and run the numbers off of that. Two things. Number one, last year 911's budget for this year has been higher than what they expected. And then, of course, we got a higher call volume. Dixon City had a lower call volume, which increased our percentage, which made our 911 fees go up from 55,000 to 82,000 or whatever it was.
But for this year, they sent us a budget and it's going to go down. I think it was 60-something, 66.
That's what they're estimating this year.
Yeah.
It's
I don't-
just, it's an estimate.
It's just
Right.
an estimate.
I don't, that's why I told Nadia, I don't really see how it could go backwards. I mean, it would be nice if it did, but I would be hesitant on believing that number based on this year's.
Okay, grant, that's a wash too. We've actually $57,270 in, but that's up to 61. That's not going to come out of fund balance or anything. Which the total police department went from 654, 694 to 694 to 737. Fire and first responders, okay. Mr. Kincaid, this is answering your question. Their phones, a lot of it was gas, the gas bill, because we had such a cold winter this year. That's part of it. And they heat off gas out there. It's a cost. Natural gas, that's correct.
You're not talking about fuel for the vehicle.
Oh, no.
You're talking about natural gas.
Natural gas, that is correct. And then plus, their phones, they got 2 phone lines that, one rings to, it's a line that dispatches the calls. I wish Eric was here to explain it to you. But anyway, there's two phone numbers, and those have gone up tremendously. Those two. It's about $2,000 a month for each line. So that's the reason why it's gone. I've asked Eric, is there anything we can do to lower the cost? Like, there's not.
Are you talking about a phone line like AT&T, Verizon, or is this something?
No, this is through
different?
AT&T.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, so we have 2, and you can't remember what's the,
Well, we got 2, but it's a dispatching. In fact, the phone number starts with M28
okay.
rather than 79. They're not 797 numbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you could say that one line is for dispatch, maybe
Yeah, with both of them.
Dedicate, both of them.
Both of them, it's somehow connected to dispatch.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said they went up like $2,000 a month?
On both lines, on each line.
Wait, did you say that was the increase, or that's what they cost?
That's what they call.
That's what they cost.
Okay, so what was the increase on, do you remember?
Probably about 600 a month, 6 or 7.
For both of them or for each?
Each line.
So it did increase by about 1,400. Okay, a month.
All right, and then repair and maintenance, oh yeah, they had, to repair a compressor, I believe it was.
A what?
Compressor. It went up to 30. And then they've had a lot of work done on their trucks too, a lot of, on the trucks, maybe a lot of.
I'm looking at, you know, when we budgeted 18,000, so obviously this year,
They just had some expenses.
they just had more expenses
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
they have never. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Because when we budget on historical figures, or anything that they know that
What
they're
they
going to.
think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that, just repairs they've had to make to their fire truck has really been expensive and a lot
That
this year.
they kind of just happened, but they didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so compression and fire trucks, okay.
Okay, under machinery and equipment, same thing as the police department. Budget 7, we had to pay out $28,256. I can't wrap my head around that, it just seems crazy, but.
Okay, when we budgeted 7 for it, was that on historical? I mean, is that what we had been
That's what we were told.
years
it was,
before? Oh,
yeah.
that's what we were told, okay?
But then it went up.
And that's based on the number of calls that were received at that time?
That's the way I understand it, yes.
It is.
It is.
And as Chief said, if one big jurisdiction has a lot less calls and it's, you gotta get to 100%, it puts a bigger burden on other cities. I mean, I'm sure Penn, Nigger Burns,
Oh,
others
they're all,
had
yes.
some increases.
The fire department usually doesn't have a budget. I mean, they've had a lot of things to happen this year. Okay, that brings it from 232 to 300,000. Street department, great.
Question on street department, so right now, just of course, this is April, it says that we're, ahead, a little under $60,000, obviously some still is gonna be spent on salaries, but are we gonna try to spend all that money, or are we gonna actually save some, or?
So hopefully, we can save, they won't have to spend all of it.
Okay.
You'll have higher fuel costs this time of year because they're mowing, whereas they weren't mowing in the winter and that kind of thing, so.
So the next 2 months, we're gonna see that.
Next 2 months higher expenses, yeah.
And I will tell you that, we've had some problems with this traffic light up here at McDonald's. And they were here, they had to come down on Memorial Day, Central Electric did, to work on it. And then they were back on Tuesday, they couldn't get it, they think they got it fixed, and then it was shorting out. So they had to have, I think they call it some kind of connector, and I had it written down in my office, but anyway, it's gonna cost $15,000.
Are we still looking at trying to hopefully get new stoplights or the
Yeah.
new, the ones that are on the poles instead of hanging on the
Yeah,
line?
that's the problem, one of the problems down there.
Don't those cost like $700,000?
Probably last year.
It's really high, yeah.
Where did we get the figure, where did I get the figure in my mind around 400,000?
Probably for me, because I called them and asked them to come bid on it, just to see, and I thought, whoa, that's not, we can't put that in the budget.
I just wondered if there were any kind of
There's a signal modernization grant, Amanda and I have talked about that. We just have to go look at it and see what's involved in applying for that.
Why are the year-to-date expenditures not showing up in the April report for the streets department?
Because this is May, this is including May figures. This right here, is put in, reason we can't give an May report, because we have, this is just a guesstimation through May.
No, I didn't explain it clearly. On the March report, the year-to-date expenditures were showing up for the streets department, but for the April report, they're not listed. So does that change the bottom line for all the numbers?
Okay, street department's on there, and the expenditures,
Maybe
it's on the second page.
the second page.
Chart of account number 43-100.
Okay, so, that's it. So what was the other month?
For March 2024. See, on this report, it has year-to-date. On this one, it doesn't.
On the April report, it has the year-to-date.
That column right
Yes,
there.
yes, year-to-date. Yeah, this is what I'm looking at.
Maybe I'm looking at the wrong report.
Okay. Tell us what they were looking for. And got year-to-date. So, you
Flip over one more page.
not using it.
Is she looking at street aid fund rather than
Yeah,
street
that's what I'm
fund?
wondering, if you're looking at State Street.
Maybe that's what I'm
Street
looking at.
department, street aid fund is two different. I know that's confusing. Street aid fund is where all of our gasoline tax goes into.
See how on the March report it's showing here, but in the April report it's figured out.
The March report, I haven't got my March report for last year.
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't changing the grand total
Oh, no.
at the bottom.
That's what I was wondering, when you say year-to-date, it ain't
Yeah.
no matter what, that is
Yeah.
year-to-date, okay,
Right.
okay.
All right, we're all in there. Let's see.
Sanitation.
All right, sanitation, we've had up the and tip and fee due to, we've paid a tip and fee to the landfill for the trash pickup. And, it's just been more trash to go there, so that we left that up to $2,200. All righty, and then Parks and Recreation. Don't tell Johnny Reed this, but it's looking good.
Now, what about the repairs that were made to the field of dreams? Is that included in this? Or is that separate?
It's included in this.
Okay, yeah.
In library, we bumped it up $1,000 for she's in desperate need of a new computer out there. And that's it.
Can you explain, for somebody that might not know, what the amending the budget means?
Okay, what the state law requires is, you have to, you have your appropriations, and if you go over those appropriations, you have to amend it. And that's what, it's pretty much self-explanatory. You have to amend where you go over the budget. Okay. And then we have to send a copy of that to the state. Yes, ma'am.
So do you remember the original figure of the proposed budget before it was changed?
we figured that, I can't remember the total expenses in, $1,500,000 for
No,
76.
unless you get some.
And that's what the
Cut in a bunch,
expenses
we got
in,
not.
minus expenditures. But that's including roads.
This tells me we budgeted $2,713,000.
That's the total expenses.
That's what we budgeted for.
That's what we budgeted for, but this is what we needed to do.
What did we budget for the expenses before it was changed in that?
So this is between 23, 24 right there.
I understand, but when it was brought before this council, we decided to amend it.
You're amending it right now, today. I'm not asking the right side, I don't understand what you're talking about.
When you prepared the budget, the 2023-2024 budget,
What was the expenses?
and we were going to have to raise taxes, and so we decided to back the original budget up to where we wouldn't have to raise taxes.
That's it right there.
Your revenues did not come in.
I understand.
So you can't pay the expenditures, right?
I'm
I
just
mean,
trying to figure
I
out,
know.
if we hadn't
Well-
changed it, would it have been $133,757?
The expenditures would have been what the expenditures are. That's the only way I know to tell you, no matter what we budgeted, the expenditures came in over what we budgeted. And so we're having to amend it in order to send the amendment to explain
I
it.
know what we're doing now, I'm just trying to figure out if we shouldn't have done what we did last year.
You talking about when we overestimated our,
Overestimated.
well, we had to, so the budget was balanced, because we're required to by the state, so remembering back to that time, I wasn't in favor of that, because it's all numbers on paper that don't mean anything, which is what we're seeing now.
If I remember right, it was $130-something thousand.
Right,
If we
and
raise
that,
taxes, is that what you're saying?
and we asked for raising taxes to maybe offset that, but still, if we'd got the raising tax, we got the $135,000, I still don't know if it would have been enough to pay these expenditures. We still would have come in and had to do an amendment on the expenditures.
I'm just trying to
I
decide if we made
know.
a mistake in doing what we did. That's all I'm trying
I'm
to do.
gonna say yes.
Yeah.
I agree with you there.
What you originally put forth as a proposed budget before we changed it would have been right on.
Right on, you're right, Scott.
That is what I'm getting
Yes,
at.
you are correct.
You are correct. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Ellie, this is when you go like this.
I'm sorry,
No shame in being proud that your numbers are right.
But, I'm gonna go with the still, with the expenditures that we budgeted. When we go over those expenditures, Melody, no matter what we take in revenues, do we have to amend because we went over the expenditures?
Only
You still have to, no matter what.
operations, yeah.
Yes. So, yeah, you're right, but still, you're right, almost, yeah, you're right. But still, we would have to do the amendment, we'd still have to do this amendment.
So then, forgive me, I was doing some rough math on it. What would be the total amendment figure?
It's 133,757. So,
Close, at 135.
so we're amending the budget based on what we know we have through the month of April.
Yeah, but, and I looked ahead to May and June too. What I,
For what you can
What you
forecast.
know, what's
right, what I
coming
can
in.
forecast for May and June also.
So, are you saying that that's included? Because this is just expense, no, this is not just expenses, this is income as well as expenses.
No, it's just expensive.
It's just expenses,
Okay.
as far as the amendment,
Okay.
yeah. We don't have to appropriations is the only thing we have to amend. Not the revenue, but the appropriations.
So if by some chance we bring in more income than what we had budgeted, we still amended the budget, whether we really need to or not?
And that was kind of my question too, on
Yeah,
the
you still
expenses.
have to.
You would have to if the expenses are changing. If the revenue goes way up or way down,
It
that's
doesn't matter.
just what happens, but in terms of budgeting expenses, if you, because technically, it's sort of, I get to go down worst case scenarios. If y'all didn't amend this budget, we would get to like another week, and then Melody couldn't write any more checks. Because technically, that total that you budgeted for all expenditures, once she reaches that, she can't write any more checks.
Okay.
So that's on the expense side versus revenues, wherever revenue is. Your first budget, which is item 5, has to balance. When you amend a budget, it can draw from general fund if the revenues are off, which happens. I mean, you're not the first jurisdiction to do that, but yeah, that's why this is only focusing on expenditures.
So once
If you're going to spend $100,000 and it turns out you need to spend $110,000, this body has to authorize that additional $10,000.
So just make sure we're all clear, even if we brought in enough revenue to pay
Yeah.
this, we
If
still
you want
have to
$10 million,
amend.
you still have to amend.
We have to
the
amend the budget on these expenses, okay.
So, a couple of questions here, so just trying to help my redneck education here wrap around this. So we're roughly $134,000 in the hole in 2023 budget, yes? So what we're...
Well, I wouldn't put it that way. You budgeted $133,000 less for expenditures than what you're going to need to spend through the end of June.
Right. So basically, this is pulling $134,000 out of the general fund to pay that.
Maybe, depending on what the
Or what
revenues end up being by the end of
revenue
June, but
comes from,
yes,
yeah.
kind of.
Okay, so that is, how does that, sorry, I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around that, because then if our revenues don't actually match that, then we're just basically, does that mean we're going in the hole even further on general fund?
Correct. Yes.
And then that's not even accounting for inflation ratio of loss of purchasing power on what's in our fund.
Correct.
Yeah, your general fund will never, ever stay exactly even. It's going to go up or down.
Right.
And some years it's gone up. This year, per Melody, it's probably going to dip a little bit, but, you know, that's...
So just to paint the picture, we need to spend $134,000 more than we get or budgeted for.
Yes.
We're probably not meeting our income markers as it is, and we haven't accounted for inflation. Those are, in my brain, those are 3 hits.
Yeah, the third one is like more of a policy, you got to keep it in your head that that's not, inflation's not reflected on these documents.
Right,
Yes,
but
you're right.
it is something that needs to be taken into consideration when you're developing a next year's budget on loss of purchasing power.
Well, yeah, we just get used to things like property insurance and everything else going up, or gas.
Right.
If we get more in revenue, that will offset that.
Yes.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
Yeah.
Now,
Depends what it is.
obviously, this is going to take a hit to our general fund. Whatever we don't make up in revenue is going to take a hit to our general fund. So there's, I know that we had a little bit of a windfall from the interest we gained from that account. Are we looking to put that into general fund to try to offset, or no?
You're talking about
Our interest that we made on
yeah,
our...
it's going into, the interest off of the, not off of the grant money, but the interest off of the money that's in the local government investment pool that is our fund balance for general fund, not for the grant. I budgeted $40,000 this year.
Yeah, that'll go back
So
into
that
general.
goes back into
And of
general
course, it's a
fund.
road, and I hate to take all that out anyways, because then it stops getting around. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Carl, I'm really happy now.
I mean, I was just trying to break, because in my brain, I'm seeing this as a triple hit, not just a single hit, so, okay.
We really won't know what our fund balance is going to be until the auditor comes and does our audit. Because he does some adjusting, that sort of thing. Because what I show as fund balance might not be what he's, you know what I mean? He has to adjust some entries and stuff. And that's every auditor at every city.
Yeah.
So So this is an ordinance, Mayor. It will have to have a first reading Tuesday, a second reading, and a public hearing. So we'll have to have a public hearing notice, just FYI, on this and the 2024-25 budget. So that'll be 2 public hearings in July.
I want to say one thing before we even get into this other budget and get all the conversation about this. And we say this every year. A budget is just your best guesstimate. Based on historical, based on the facts and figures you can get ahead of time from some of our vendors. Some you cannot. But, and things come up that we're not aware of. I mean, this just happened. So your budget is your best, it's just a guesstimate. It's what it's a sheet that tool that we try to go by.
What was our general fund carried forward last year?
I haven't read all it. I don't keep these figures in my.
I didn't know that. In my head.
It was over $1 million. I will figure that out.
So, I'm just trying to figure out if it's the same as 1,406,000 or 19.
I'd have to go through the I know I'm not worried. I mean, it's nothing to worry about. I mean,
Well, not
We're
worried about it, I'm
okay.
just trying to see
just making
if
sure.
we're increasing the general fund yearly,
Right.
or is it decreasing yearly?
It was 1,499 as of June 30th last year.
That was general fund, that's not including the grant.
Not including the grant. So that's just what he had as his line item,
Yeah.
as a general fund balance.
Thank you.
So almost $1.5 million, right?
Mhm.
So if we continue this trend down, I have no idea. I was saying for a while, I'm thinking maybe we might be 150,000 to 200 short. I'm not sure. I've been keeping up with it. I didn't really forecast it
Mhm.
this month. I didn't take this and forecast it based on what you'd already deposited in
Mhm.
for me, but
We
we
got
showed on here.
we did get a bigger check this year, this month. In fact, we just got it today, didn't we? Brenda? So.
What was it for,
It was
Melanie?
71,000. She does all the receipting. It was 71,000.
71,000 something.
For local option, just local option, 71,000, so, and,
Buying more.
Yeah.
yeah,
What's that figure again, Andrew?
so 680 plus 70, about it. What are we at?
1.499.
What are we at? Somebody added up. We're just rounding off, well, 679 plus 71,000. Taken in May, and then we should have one more check come in, and that'll be due,
Right, yeah.
so.
But the point is our income is not on track to meet the budget, and now we're amending it to spend more.
Mhm.
Okay. 680 plus 71.
Thanks, Carl.
Just,
Have you done it, Connie?
Well, I thought it was, but
680 plus
I came up with 7
70.
million, so that is not it.
$7 million.
Yeah, there you go. We're way ahead.
So it'll be down $92,681 this time last year. That would be interesting to see what the trend is. The balance carried forward.
Okay, we
for the last
should-
10 years.
With what you developed.
Roger, we discussed how it had been increasing over the past 5 years. So this would be the first year to decrease.
Okay, with what you deposited in May, we should be at 751 in the local option sales tax. So,
And
we've still got a way to go. We're gonna be real low in local option. I'm looking right now, we're behind about $176,000. So, if we get another good check, maybe we might say we're gonna be behind about $100,000 in local option.
But the thing is, there are other categories where we're ahead,
Right,
so it may not be that much.
yeah, some of it might offset.
Well, we're gonna go backwards again when we amend this budget to pay the extra hundred and whatever thousand it was that we're short on expenses.
I'm horrendous.
Glad I could pass it over to you.
Yeah.
Carry on.
I'm all work.
When we get some more from TVA, gross receipts,
Yes.
okay, so we're behind 15,000 there. But we're ahead of Rural Fire Service, you know,
I did, you go by historical figures, you're just about gonna hit it on the, Misty's been helping me a lot with this budget, she's gonna be taking my place when I retire. But she has seen, if you use those historical figures, you're gonna come out pretty close on this budget.
We picked up delinquent property taxes, that's
yeah,
good,
that's,
yeah.
that's,
We'll take a win.
Right.
yeah.
Somebody got after the delinquent.
Clark and Master goes after those things.
Okay, we were behind, what, about 30,000 in property taxes, but yet we picked up, 18, 26, about 9,000 there, so we're still, then I would say 21,000, I'm just doing this off the top of my head, so we'll be 21,000 short between those two, I think. Not doing this with calculator, just off the top of my head. Yeah, so we're gonna be short, probably, but, because, I mean, the property taxes are set, there's nothing else to do about that. Okay. Enough for the bad news.
I think we get a good rate, I mean, about 95% collection rate, and that's good.
Delinquent, yeah.
But no, I'm talking about on regular, current year taxes.
Yeah. Okay.
Because nobody wants to be turned over to Clark and Master.
All right. So we have an ordinance for the next meeting, for the amendment.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that.
For the amendment.
That's the trash.
Yeah. Residential trash pickup bid, we opened the bid, Thursday, Wednesday? Got 2 bids. You wanna talk about it, Jeff?
Sure. So, bid opening was, yesterday at 2 p.m. We had 2, bids turned in. One was Cumberland Disposal, our current provider. Their bid was $237,600. And then we had SPI Waste and Recycling out of Clarksville, and their bid was $305,325. So timing-wise, we did this because our current contract will expire June 30th, and we wanted to get the numbers for you guys to see in the budget how that's going to work. So
That's about a $61,000 difference from last year.
174 is what we currently pay.
63,600, which is not, it's not as much as I thought it would be.
When we first started working on the budget, we put in 274,000. We really did be that high.
just wanted a number for you.
Yeah.
Jeff, how long are these contracts? Is it 3 or 4 years?
So the contract is 2 years with the option to renew for 2 years. So we typically look at it as 4.
Right.
Yeah, we have the option, or they have the option, don't we, after 2 years?
Both.
Yeah.
Either
one, either party.
can get out of it.
We have an option, or they have an option to get out of it. Okay, now, before, I mean, I think, this is a good bid, it's all gonna be, honest with you. So this is something that will be very important to look at in the budget.
So there would be a second action to approve one of these, if that's what we're going to do, and then give the mayor authorization to sign the contract.
Correct, we would ask for that as one motion on Tuesday, and then we'll work out the contract to go into effect before this one ends.
Yeah.
I understand that we don't actively pursue anybody, we just put it out for bid, and if they happen to see it, then that's the only people who bid. Wouldn't it behoove us to actively contact local disposal companies and tell them, hey, it's up for bid?
So what we do is we put it in the newspaper, we put it on the website, and we put it on Facebook. I mean, if we knew who to call, I mean, there's, we're not big enough for companies like Waste Management. I mean, Waste Management, they bid it one time years ago, and it was a pretty incredible number. So, I mean, if we knew other places to notify, we could do that.
There's Queen City Disposal out of Clarksville, I believe. It's one I can think of.
Well, they have the opportunity, I mean, this one's out of Clarksville and they saw it, so they have the same opportunity everybody else does.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on down to discuss first reading, County Light Bill budget for fiscal year.
Before we start talking about the budget, I want to
Okay.
say something.
Okay.
Something on my mind. And what Scott said a while ago kind of brought it up. If we, and this is about last year's budget, if we had not changed it and voted on it to do what we did to the budget, things would have worked out. And that is our fault. That is not Melody's fault. But Melody's been taking the hit for it, and that's not the way it should be. It's us. She just works for us. So, the public needs to understand that. And that's all I gotta say about that, but it's not her.
Well, and I'll even go further, if I remember correctly, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, you told us that we didn't have the money to make the budget work. And so what we did is we altered numbers to make it look like it was going to work for the benefit of the state, knowing all good and well that we probably weren't going to make the budget.
No, that's not correct.
That's what I...
It is absolutely
Yeah.
correct.
We altered numbers to fit a mold of what we wanted to happen, knowing
So
just
in
what I needed.
previous years, we've had a budget increase. I know it's not a surplus, that's not the correct phrase for it, but our fund balance had increased by hundreds of thousands of dollars for previous years, consecutive years. And we're talking 100,000 one year, 300,000 one year.
And I do, to your benefit, I do remember you actually bringing that point up.
Yes.
I did not feel, I will say, to speak for me, I did not feel that we would be able to meet the numbers that we presented myself, which is why I was hesitant to vote, but I didn't want to split council on the budget, and so...
I would encourage you to vote your conscience on every vote, not just for the sake of council.
Well, and I think that would be true for all of us, because I do believe on this council, there's a lot of votes that land as a election token, not necessarily a gut feeling, but an election token, knowing, because just what we're fixing to do right here, my election's coming up, here's due, it's going to hurt us if we do what needs to be done for the city. So
I will speak for myself, I can't speak for any of the rest of you, but if I vote yes for something, it's because I believe it's a yes. If I vote no, it's because I believe it's a no. I'm not doing anything for appearances, I'm not doing anything because it's an election year. What you see is what you get.
And we got any more comments?
Sure, I'll make a comment, because you know me, I like turning them out. I mean, I wouldn't go so far as to say there was any numbers manipulated, Brian. I think that we were looking at trajectories, and we had hopes that that trajectory would maintain, and it just simply didn't. So I did not, and I think I could speak confidently when I say, because I was a yes vote, to not raise, or rather, I don't know how you want to say that, but I was not in favor of raising the taxes.
at that time, because I was in hopes that that trend would continue. Obviously, you guys were not, and believe in y'all turned, ended up being correct, and I was wrong. I don't mind admitting that at all. But my point though is that I don't believe any of us who voted to not increase taxes had any. We were very hopeful that that trend would maintain. I did not have any expectation that we weren't going to beat that. My hopes was that we would. We just simply were wrong. So.
Let me say something about, I've been a part of this budget for 20 years. And I've always said it, and it's true. We have always, I've been real conservative on budgeting revenues. I'd rather be conservative and hope that the revenues we budget is enough. We match the expenses with it. That's how we hold the expenses down, because here's what I think we're going to bring in. We have had a couple of years where it went over, and that's good. That's what you would like to see, instead of going, okay, we're going to budget conservative, and then if it goes over, that's all too good. That goes in. Now, the years that we had those I haven't researched those. But I know we have had some, I don't know if that included some grant money maybe we got that year?
No, that did not include grant money, because I specifically subtracted that out.
Okay. But I would say, yeah, that's good if we had years where we budgeted so conservative, we made $100,000. I don't ever remember being that happy, not calling you down or anything, but that would be I would have run all day long on that. I said, listen here. Look what we did for you, you know. But anyway, I don't care what we did, I don't care what y'all say, I don't care. You've got to go with what the state says, and we've got, for now, we do have charts and grants and suggestions from the state. They look at our census. You've also kind of always, the way we've done it in the past, is you look at what you took in last year, or maybe even the year before that. So if you could average it the last 2 years, you can add a little to it, you know, because we are getting more population, or things are just going up. Sometimes it's not the population, it's because what I go out and buy, the groceries I go out and buy, I used to buy them for $70, now they're $140. So we're going to make more taxes. I go out and eat, I used to eat for $15, now it's $25. So you just have to kind of, I will say it again, your budget is just, it's your best guess with what you've got historically and what the state tells you. So I do think last year we budgeted too much in revenues. We should not have budgeted that much. That was not a good look for us.
Well, I would also add to just in my own personal growth here, I've learned a lot more from George Antone about purchasing power, and then from our council about the state recommended rainy day fund and how we're deficient on that. And so just coupling those two things together, again, I don't know if the surplus would be the right word, but it's alarming at how much we actually need to be on the other end of it.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? You said we were deficient in what?
Rainy day fund?
We
and
are
then also,
not deficient in our rainy day fund,
okay.
according to the state.
Okay. I was under the impression that
And do you know how much the state says we need for a rainy day fund?
It's a minimum of 25% is what I was told. An absolute minimum, which
Right.
I agree.
I
we
think
would not
the
want
rule of
it to be
thumb
that low.
we had talked about was 1 year. That's what you strive for, but yes, Councilman Morrill's correct. You never, ever want to go below 25%, but that's a floor versus you would like to have 1 year of your budget in general fund.
Right, so that's my point, is are we shooting for our floor? Are we shooting for healthy? What are we shooting for?
That's policy.
Yeah, it is policy, and that is what's debatable, but my point is I don't want to shoot for the floor of state recommended. I would rather shoot, and obviously we don't need to shoot for double and triple, but I'm just saying in light of learning those things, which I was not aware of when I was last year, just because again, I'm green, learning the same as the rest of us. So I'm just saying, taking in light of, hey, I don't want to shoot for the floor, which is 25%, and we need to consider purchasing power to at least maintain. Those two things are, I'm just making a point that was quite alarming to my own education. That's all, simply saying. But I would agree with Melody should not receive any of the heat at all. So if anybody is, I don't know who is, but I will take owner. I don't mind people hating.
I'll take ownership of that, no. Just, in the future, just deflecting, but it's blame cloth, it's fine.
And before we get into the budget, I was going to introduce Misty. Misty has put in a lot of hours. In fact, this year, we did not have our 2024 Taste of the Town
No.
because Misty had to help with the budget. And I mean, and she's, it's a very, I have come in more this year and been more in the budget than I ever have. And I've questioned, and they hate me sometimes, I know they do, and I've got little notes where they would go and get the figures and say, here's what we got this, here's what we got coming in, we got 10 checks, we got 2 more coming in. So, it's very difficult thing.
It's process, and we're not finished yet. After we pass the budget, there's other things that we've got to do. We got, worksheets we gotta send to the state, we gotta put it in the paper, you know.
Yeah, there's a lot to it, But anyway, so, okay, well, let's get to it then. I'm gonna read you, excuse me. This is just to introduce the budget. Now, we're giving you 2 budgets. We got the other budget in there too, right?
It's in here too, it's at the very back.
Okay. I asked for 2 budgets this year. I asked for a budget, what we need, just to maintain and manage this town on what we've got right this minute, and what we expect to have this coming year, the expenses. That's one budget. And then I asked for the second budget to include everything that every department, plus that's including our department, the administrative, needs that we'd like to have. Because, and I understand, we've had conversations about, well, you know, we don't know what the department head has asked for, so we should get that. So I think this is the biggest package we've ever had for budget, I can tell you. But I think that's in here, right? What the department head has asked for?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right.
That's the minimal one there. Yeah.
To members of the White Bluff County Council from Mayor Linda Hayes, attached.
Right here. It's, yeah, right there.
What?
I was waiting for the second budget.
Oh, well, we'll get to that, yeah.
He's got it, he don't
He's
have,
got it.
he don't have
Okay.
the all-inclusive budget.
You don't have the all-inclusive?
He has it there.
Well, that's the big one.
6, 7, 8. That's the one that.
There it is, right there.
Oh, okay. I thought that was the one that, we only copied the front
Yeah.
page.
And then that's 2 documents right here. That goes at number 5. That's the letter goes with that one right there.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay, we ready to go? Attached, you'll find the proposed budget for the fiscal year 2024-25. This includes budgets for the general fund, state street aid fund, and drug fund. Property taxes are calculated by preliminary assessment from the assessor and a state estimator tool. The state estimator tool is a new service provided by the state to assist local municipalities in estimating property tax amounts. So that's how we estimated the property tax for this year. All intergovernmental revenue and local option sales tax are calculated by the state estimator tool and are included in the packet. All other revenue is based on historical figures. Fund balance is an estimation. The actual fund balance will be determined, or is determined, during our annual audit later in the year. Closes June 30th, And then our auditor, Melody, has to get all the information to, Mr. Poole, and he will do an audit, and he'll tell us exactly where we stand on everything. We've got it up to 5% salary increase at the department head's discretion. You'll see a significant increase in the general government expense section of the budget. These increases are necessary to enhance overall security, including in our IT department, and to ensure that we are working toward the National Institute Standards and Technology Cyber Security Framework, which is recommended by the Governor's Office. Details of this increase include the following. IT would be from R.J. Young. It's included in your packet. It would be $3,000 monthly expense per year for a year, which would be $36,000. The initial setup cost is $18,000. The total for R.J. Young is $54,000. Now this goes along, these two things right here goes along with cyber security for one thing, which is right. Okay, well, we'll discuss it more, I know we get in the budget.
More cities are getting the ransomware and that sort of thing, and we're gonna have to take steps into securing our, and then securing, our website, or our the network, I'm sorry. But, and then Nisi is our security officer now, and it will help her, the IT part.
Yeah, we don't really have an IT person.
We don't.
We don't. So R.J. Young can take over that. They will be our IT people. Okay. So the total for R.J. Young then is $54,000. Verkada, hope I'm saying that right, is for 22 door projects for key card entries for this building. Now, does this include the Civic Center or just this building? Okay. And we'll talk about that as to why we need that. Other general government expenses include Denton's 2 monitors for meetings in the courtroom. There'd be, I guess, one on each wall. Y'all remember we went out to that, did that. $13,000. Document scanning estimate for R.J. Young, $42,000. That is something we did approve. We've approved that now for a year or two, and we just haven't done it because last year I held up on it because I was afraid of, we just weren't going to take in enough money to pay the expenses we already had, but it has been approved before. So that is, we need to get everything scanned, every historical document, everything. It just needs to be scanned. It needs to be in iCloud where it can be pulled up at any time. Then if anything, this is kind of maybe not the right scenario, but if this building was destroyed, we just have papers everywhere, we would have nothing. So we need to have these records scanned. I've always wanted that done because we did lose a lot of history just from that old city hall down there. We lost a lot of history. Okay, A1 sign, town hall digital signage of $47,223. We've already got almost $14,000 was already raised at one of my cases fountains and is in general fund, which still it all has to come back out of general fund. It's counted in there now, it has to come back out. Another decrease, but anyway, the total for that is $47,223. I was thinking it was $43,000 and something like that.
We increased it a little bit by 10% due to
Just
the tax
inflation. Okay.
We might not have to spend that much.
Okay. Police department expense increases. Note that the increased salary did not go over 5% due to the compensation plan that we already work under. But we have got this budget for 1 new police officer and a capital outlay note for 6 new patrol vehicles. Fire and first responder expense increase. We asked for 1 new full-time fireman. Street department expense increase, $75,000 for street lighting, and this is because it's not that street lighting has gone up. Last year we moved the street lighting out of general fund, trying to help general fund balance. We put it over in the state street aid fund, which is a different from state fund. That left us nothing to do any repairs, any paving or anything, just a small paving every once in a while, like we did Hadley Street. every once in a while, it's about every year or so, if you can just pick up a street or two here and there. And we would have enough in state street aid fund. Well, by paying the street lining out of state street aid fund, which legally you can do, but it left us nothing. So we put that back over in general fund. I'm proposing that we leave the tax rate at 50 cents. This tax rate will allow us to make necessary security improvements, free up funds for minor paving projects, as well as to provide equipment and increase personnel in our police and fire departments. I would ask that you study this proposed budget between now and next week's council meeting. And please contact me, Melody, or Misty, or I'll throw Jeff in here too, because he's over a lot of these departments, with questions or suggestions, and be prepared to vote on the budget next week. We are here to work with you. So that's the cliff notes. This first budget here is the all-inclusive budget. And I'm going to let Melody and Misty do a lot of talking on this. Melody, this includes the 60 cents, right?
That is.
Leaving, not raising the taxes, but it's just leaving the 60
Leaving it at the
cents.
same tax rate.
Yeah. Okay?
Go ahead. What's in this budget is pretty much what the mayor just read. Lot of the expense is with, IT, security. We're going to have, Misty, you may want to talk about the security, since you're the security officer, but the state has mandated that we have a security officer, and there's a lot that goes along with that. So, you want to talk to them about it?
Well, I didn't know if you wanted to talk about the revenue first, with the state, the estimator tools.
Oh, well, could we look at the property tax, what the increase revenue is gonna be if it does stay at the 60?
Yes, okay, but you've got the property tax revenue, estimator tool?
Yes.
All right. No, we have not gotten our certified tax rate yet. I talked to Jeannie Martin today, assessor, and she said that everything's been sent to the state, so it'll probably be next week before we know what our certified tax rate is. But this is what we're estimating that our total assessed value will be, is $146,351,326. If we adopted a tax rate of 60 cents, and we get a historical collection rate of 95%, the total tax levy will be $878,108. But we're forecast the property tax revenue is $834,203. That's at the 95%.
So basically, if you took that amount and subtracted from the minimal budget, the 533,612, that would be the difference in the money we would gain, about
Exactly.
$300,000.
You're right. Because really, the new, with this certified tax rate year, we're not going to be getting any more revenue as far as property tax because of certified.
Well, it shows actually, if I'm looking at it right, on minimal budget, is 38 cents think what you just might think certified tax would be? We would get less.
.3838, yeah.
We would get less taxes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that would be based on the new assessment, so it would stay the same if that's what the number was, 38 cents.
Is it 38 cents? That's, well, it's on that, I've got another property tax tool.
Okay, what I'm looking at here, is this what you're looking at? Okay, if it's this is what, the 23, 24, but if it was at 38 cents, we would get 533, is that right?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes, we'd get less if we went down to that.
So it would have to be higher than that,
Yeah.
obviously.
Well,
Your
yeah.
estimator
Yeah.
tools can be stapled to your budget in the back.
In the very
The
back.
minimal,
The minimum.
Minimal, yeah, that's at 38 cents. I know it's a lot of paperwork.
I apologize for that.
because I know in the past, when we've had to do this, it has dropped, but I don't think it's ever dropped more than 10 cents when there's been a readjustment. So if we went to 38, then that would be like a 22%, or 22 cents.
50 instead of 38, maybe.
been 4 years.
While we're saving, tell me that's 5%.
Reassessment.
On those figures, it's all high.
A lot of value increases from 2020, 2019.
So is this assessed value, is that's the current, off of what
That's
they
the
just
current,
done?
exactly.
Okay.
It's, you know, of course, everything's been sent to the state. So
Right.
it could change a little bit, but not much. It hasn't actually been,
So actually, I thought that they had to assess it enough to make sure that you got in the same amount that we would have got in this year, right? But
Right.
looking at this, it was not,
But
right?
that's what you said, that Jenny said the numbers won't come in until next week.
the actual certified tax rate. And
Yeah.
that's just a preliminary, it's the 38 cents.
Where did they get that? Where did, somebody come up with that? Where did that come up from?
With assessor's office.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, we don't.
Well, and keep in mind, when you look at the levy amount, that's assuming you get a 100% collection, that's
Exactly.
561.
Mm.
Yeah.
Looking at historical average of 95% collection, that drops it to 533, but yeah, I mean, it's
Okay.
based upon 556 for the previous budget year, so that's 5,000 difference on the levy amount. But not quite
Okay.
apples to apples.
So we're looking at the minimal budget. That's the one you're working on right now, Natalie?
No, we're looking at your
all inclusive?
all inclusive budget right now.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Inclusive.
All
Yeah, that-
inclusive. Fancy. Okay, local option sales tax, that's the tool we used to get those figures.
Now, did you get that? You didn't get that off the graph, that's what you
Well,
used
that's off
historically?
the comptroller's.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Okay,
it came off
okay.
there. Last year they gave me a graph, you know, they showed a graph, but this year that's not on there. It's done. So what we had to do, we had to put in, current, what we have gotten in the current budget year. Of course, now, keep in mind, we had estimated May and June. And then we've got the audited amount. And that's how it's figured. So, on the second page, it says the forecasted sales tax revenue for budget. Year 2025 is 841,817.
Okay, wait a minute, I'm not making this the right page. Yeah, I got you, okay. So the state, I just keep repeating this, so that the state estimates that that's what we'll take in, that's what we'll get next year.
That's doing those, using this estimator tool.
Okay. Okay,
And then our city state shared revenue, that's, our state sales tax, our state beer tax, petroleum tax, TVA, sports betting, and the gasoline and motor fuel tax, which that's out of, the street aid fund. And that's based on your, the population of Fayette, it says inner population for the municipality, 3,862, and these are the ones that's based on the population.
Is that on the 2020 census?
Yes. So it's state sales tax, it's estimating we'll get 478.838. Beer tax, 1,777, petroleum tax, 7,067, TVA gross receipts, 47,116, and sports betting, 6,962. And then gasoline and motor fuel tax, 135,170. And the rest of it's just based on historical figures. as far as the revenue.
So interest on bank accounts and local government, that's based on that, what you said a minute ago, we probably would skip
Yeah.
past year, okay. We should get that again, that's just on the card from the general fund balance, it's up there.
Correct.
Okay,
Because we've been, interest has been about $1,000 on just our regular checking account, but now I'm expecting, we'll be getting that money from the local government investment pool this year.
okay.
But that's not including grants at all, so keep that in mind.
Okay, on miscellaneous, we're estimating 50,000.
Mm-hmm. And the civic center is paid off, so we don't have to, and we just like one more year on the,
Fire trucks, it's not.
on the,
Capital outlay for White Bluff, no?
no. The street paving on White Bluff Road
Road,
will be
yeah.
paid off in 2025, but
Yeah.
that's in street aid fund, so
Yeah.
it's not in this. In the expenses, most of the, through the, technology, IT, security, that sort of thing.
The health insurance went up.
Oh, yeah.
How many employees do we have on that now?
13.
13. Yeah.
Of course, the reason it's going up, though, is if we hire another police officer and
Yeah,
another
exactly.
fire, so that's why
Yeah.
health insurance is
Yeah.
going up.
Okay. Workers' comp,
It's,
is that another one of those, expenses that we pool?
yes.
Yeah.
And
With-
it's
So it's not necessarily anything we've done wrong, it's just that it's,
It's based on your payroll,
okay,
yeah.
If you have
But it's
two
still-
new people, it's gonna go up regardless.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
We also did every year, they come down to a workers' comp audit too. So they're the ones that determine what our rate is gonna be. Public Energy Department, contracts out to a company that comes and does a workers' comp audit.
Okay.
On, the salaries for everyone, does this, the one transition staff, does that include the addition of like a part-time employee?
I'm retiring in December.
Oh.
So we're gonna have somebody come in, Misty is being trained to do my job, she's already been through the accounting classes and everything. So
She's
we're
a
gonna-
CMFO.
She's a CMFO,
Yeah.
So we're gonna have somebody, well, she's gonna be in my office working most of the time. We gotta have to train somebody to take her place. So,
When we talk money on, while we're on salaries, y'all want to go now or you want to wait?
Why don't we go the rest of the way through here and then go back and talk about what y'all want to talk about, how about that?
just look down through here, let's see, under office administration, under general government, office and general administrative, that's a big jump, and that's due to all the software support, IT, key cards, the monitors for in here, the scanning, the signs.
So on the basic budget, we get none of that. Key card, none of it, okay.
Well, it's IT as well, yeah.
So we get the IT, just not the key card and stuff?
Right.
That's a giant jump, from 45,000 to 268,000.
It's expensive, it's very expensive, but these are mandates that,
Right.
we don't have to do,
So where is the itemized?
It's in your pack, it should be in your packet, everything. It's like here's Stanton, it's all right here, like here's what.
I can buy some key cards off Amazon.
You know?
I said I can buy some key cards off Amazon, we can save on that.
So this is $220,000?
But no, Now, after this year, it wouldn't be that much, we just have to pay a yearly, price, but this is set everything, it's very expensive, especially on the, like the card. They have to do a lot of wiring, and it's very expensive.
And can I ask, while we're talking about this, if we do approve this in the budget, is this gonna go out to bid to other?
Oh, yes, it'll have to go to bid.
Yeah, that's my
Yeah,
question, is do we
yeah.
put out for bids?
We just got these
These are
people,
just placeholders.
yeah,
Yeah.
and Nikki's worked very hard in getting these people in here and as our security officer. We've had to get bids in order to know, not bids, but prices, to know what to put in the
Just to
budget.
get a ballpark.
Now, when you're talking about key card, you're literally just talking about keying into a building instead of an actual hardware key, is that what you're talking about?
So we're talking about, it's gonna be cloud-based. We can unlock and lock the doors from off. We won't have to be here, like if somebody left it unlocked, or if there's an emergency, we can lock all doors. If somebody gets fired, we can take their privileges away from that card. We can allow, say, anybody to access certain doors without actually accessing other doors that they shouldn't be allowed into. Like for Melody's office, where we have all of, everybody's personal information. People wouldn't be able to access that.
You're tailoring each fob to what they're allowed.
Exactly, yes, yes.
Right. Now, of course, that would obviously go hand in hand with your network security, because it doesn't do a whole lot of good to get that in place if your network is weak.
Exactly, yeah. So that's kind of why when we did the two budgets, when we went with the minimal, we did the cybersecurity, because that's more of an immediate thing. We really, really need a lot of that. That's important. Right now, we have keys, we've had keys, but within the resolution that everybody agreed on, it says access control. And when you look at what RJ Young has went through, and they did an audit on us, you'll see where they can raise our score. So you'll also see where our network, where our tower is, and all of that, it's not secure, it's not audited. Well, we can do that with Seaguard. So it couldn't be 100, because they can't control that, we do.
Without all the security, we kind of just sitting ducks.
Well, and there's funding for that. We can get grants for it. So, we can, if we up our score, we can get grants.
So you're saying that even though this would be in budget initially, there's hopes that we might be able to offset?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Would, eventually, and I don't know if it would or not, but getting our security upgraded, would that help our insurance rate at all, do you think?
It could. I would say it could.
No harm in asking.
Well, and I would say our biggest gain will be in our liability.
Yeah, you're right.
Because if we don't have it and we do get attacked or hacked, then
You have to pay, you have to pay to get it running.
In fact, the sheriff's office was hacked, was it?
I think I've got
5
4
years ago.
messages this year telling me that I've been exposed from different
Oh, yeah.
companies I didn't work with in years.
And if we don't do something about it,
we're liable.
we're liable, that's right.
Let's clarify about the grants. Usually in the past, any grant we got for anything, I don't care if it's police, parks, what it's for, it's a 2 or 3 year thing.
Oh, yeah.
So we wouldn't get, even if we could get a grant, we would not get a grant immediately. If we even could get it, you have to apply for it, correct?
Well, so the NCSR actually put out an assessment, which you'll see if you guys want to pick this up and take a look at it. So this is just basically telling you on this front page that this is referring to the resolution.
So in response to the resolution?
Yes. So I completed the assessment. so we'll qualify for the future state and federal funding. The town has become a member of the following to get updates and recommendations on cybersecurity threats: the Homeland Security Information Network, Center for Internet Security, Multi-State Information Sharing and Analysis Center. When we obtained the quote for RJ Young, I sat him down with the whole resolution, and I said, hey, so what are these steps in here that you guys provide? And these were the ones: the security training, contingency planning, all of these listed. They've already helped several municipalities and counties fill out the NCSR assessment and help them reach a higher maturity level, because the state and they actually rate us because we go in and we update where we ranked before, our answers. They will go in and they'll fill out, this is what we've done. We went in, we made this better, we installed this, we ranked higher. They see that, they start giving us funding for it. So if you look, that second page is the letter showing from the governor's office. That third page is kind of breaking it down, what it is, what it's going to do for you. The next page is showing you our maturity level. This is where we rank. So if you look where, the protect, so we rated, we want to score at least a 5 or above. 5 is the minimum. Well, the other towns and townships, they're struggling too. Nobody's there at that 5. But, we want to be proactive and not reactive. So I like to see us up above that. So once we go in and we start answering those, whoever our IT person is, they go in, they start answering those, we run these again, we're going to see our levels start going up.
Does that make us more qualified for grants?
Yes, yes.
When the levels go up, we're more qualified, okay.
Yes.
So typically, and I haven't looked at these listed, but typically state and federal grants, they want to see that the entity has put some skin in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to see an initial investment, and then you become more attractive for the grant money.
So I guess my question is, my statement is, if we put that in the budget this year, and if it's approved, we can go ahead and get it in the budget. We go up for bid, of course, and we're, do what we gotta do. But then we get a grant later, is that, how long do we have to wait for this grant? How long do we have to do without this?
I will have to do some research on that, but
Yes.
at the TAMPAR, I actually spoke to another town, and they said they had already received some grant money on this. So I filled this out in 2023, so it wasn't that long before they started seeing some income on it.
So, okay. So we might put the money in here, but we might not spend it this year, depending on the grant. What I'm saying, if we put all that money in here and we just go ahead and this all works through and we pay for it, then we don't need a grant. Do you see what I'm saying? What comes first? Put the chicken and eggs, what I'm saying.
Well, I think we're gonna have to put forth the money first before they're gonna give us a grant.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But your grants are probably going to be for future additional
I'm sorry to
expense.
say,
It's not
okay,
going to be
okay.
retroactive.
Yeah.
What
We
you're
might
saying.
have to do this first, that's my question.
Yeah.
We might just have to
Yeah.
do this first, and then,
The system could get paid for.
yeah,
These systems will have to be upgraded,
yeah,
along.
okay.
So then if you turn the page, that, the current score, the 35, that's where they audited us, and you see all the yellow and the red. The next page will show you where the green, that's where they come in. Those are the things that they can change. And then where I've got Verkado, which is
Quick
the
question,
key
that
card.
audit score on RJ Young, is that RJ Young's score, or is that the state scoring it?
That is RJ Young's score.
And that's the salesman tool, so I'm just
Well,
wondering.
yes, I'm sure, but if you read it, it does make sense. These are things that they can provide us,
Doesn't
so.
necessarily mean they're lying, but.
Well, it will make us more secure,
Sure.
so, as long as it's making us more secure. But, things that they couldn't control would be the server in a locked room, but there is no controlled access or auditing. So that's where Verkado would come in, where we can control, we can see who's going into that room,
Yeah.
when they're going into that room, so.
So I have some questions.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Why wouldn't we include the bid center in this 22-door project for Cotton, since the government offices are there too?
Jeff, you want to answer that because you didn't ask for it, did you?
No, well, I mean, at some point, I think you're right. And unfortunately, and I wish this were here, but there's actually preliminary wiring and stuff done to support a system like this at the bid center. So it would be a cheaper investment to put it there. But this is where all of the information is stored. I mean, yes, there are offices out there, but there's no real, I mean, I have things, but it's not as critical to this facility. So I think you should prioritize town hall, but in the future, we should look at the bid center. Yeah.
Was there a way to get a quote to do both? Because would it be, we don't know if it's going to be more expensive to do this building and then later that building, or if we do both at the same time, if they give us a package deal. That's what I'm thinking.
We can absolutely get a quote for those.
I mean, it just makes sense to me that if we're doing this, we need to do all of our government buildings, and the bid center with your office there is a government building.
And you could put it out for bid with an add-on, so, you know, we have to do this building, so put it out for bid, but also put in there, hey, bid on this as well as one project, and y'all can make the call of looking at those two numbers, and deciding to do it all or just town hall. But that absolutely can be done.
Right.
Again, you're not going with all these are just placeholder numbers. When you put out the bid, you can get 8 different bids, you're evaluating them, those bids can have different criteria that y'all want to dictate, so that can happen.
Would you think, okay, Jeff, you answer this. When we're talking about cybersecurity, and that's basically what we're mostly talking about here, cybersecurity. Is there as much danger for cybersecurity for someone coming in the civic center and getting it? I know there's danger here. Everything is here. This is where the hub is.
Not only is everything here, but everything is connected here, which can be a problem. I'm not connected to anything. I mean, I'm just my own little thing.
All those, in the RJ Young, the quote, we had the bid center also, and I believe it's Fire Hall, maybe?
Yeah.
We went ahead and included everything because ingoing and outgoing, they do have Wi-Fi over there, and we just wanted to make sure everything was covered and protected. So if you look through the RJ Young proposal, it does have a breakdown. Well, no, it doesn't. I can get that to you. There were so many pages already. I didn't want to give you all the hardware, but they are included in this.
So it's already in there.
My question
All the
is,
buildings,
RJ
yes.
is saying we have no cyber liability insurance, so do we not have any liability right now, insurance for that?
Yes, we have liability, but I don't know whether it will cover, I don't think it will cover cyber, because we haven't done anything to try to help it.
We can look at that. We haven't gotten a ransomware policy.
I mean, that's alarming, because if we had failure, we have no shield.
I would believe the city, speaking of liability insurance, why does the budget have it estimated to decrease for this upcoming year to the increase?
Okay, it's due to, dividends. I get a letter, the dividend, sometimes it decreases, usually we get dividends for that year.
If we add established security?
Yeah, we may have to, I don't think it'll be that much more.
Well, especially if we're getting a system, I think.
That's our
Yeah,
That was,
So you said all buildings were included in which quote?
the RJ Young, which is the cybersecurity, the
Not the
IT.
key card. I'm thinking the door key card project.
The Verkada, we can actually get a quote. When we put that out for bid, we can get
Right.
quotes for both buildings.
But the only thing is I don't know, I think that'd be a little more detailed, because we rent that civic center out a lot, and we couldn't give a card every time somebody rented, and sometimes there's 3 different people in there at one time. So that could be worked out, but that's a little more detailed, I think.
I'm thinking,
It would be.
with the Board of Education, it seems like I remember they would issue, cards, and then when your stay was over, they would just deactivate the card. So that, but you could still see by the card who entered at what time and how long they stayed and when they left. So you had all that documentation, and then when they got done with whatever they were doing, they would just discontinue their card.
Yeah, so I would think that would be kind of like a motel.
Kind of,
Hotel.
yeah.
Like you go and
Yeah.
you're using the key to get in there.
Yeah.
So, the only thing I would wonder about is the cost of the actual cards, because I know that you get a limited amount,
Mhm.
so,
Well, and I'm hopeful that as we grow and as we get grants, because there they make them in-house. They could discontinue them in-house, they could make new ones in-house, which I think we should probably be able to do at some point down the pipeline.
I believe when we were talking to, it's been a long time since I talked to Verkada. I've been working on this for a while now. I believe we were the ones that were able to program them. But, they can bring a key back here for the community center. I don't know why they couldn't bring a key back here.
And
for
we
the
did
youth
that too,
center.
like you could turn them in and reuse them, but if you didn't, then there was a fee. Like if you just kept
There
your
you go.
card, they would just deactivate it, but you had to pay the card because you took it home. So
Yeah.
When you do the card deposit, you get the deposit back.
Exactly, right.
There you go. So,
So my second question is this second sheet in your introduction here. All these line items add up to $244,124. And sign, first of all, I was under the impression that the sign was already paid for.
No, it's not already paid for. It's just like we said, I always said 15,000, but I'm looking now, it was right at 14,000.
Right.
And we went on and we had to turn it in, we put it in the budget, it went in general fund because we didn't spend it.
Right.
But it just kind of got mixed up with all the other. I thought I had, and was hoping, and still hope, that we had a private donor. But he's had some health problems, and he has had some deals fall through. Now, if those deals go through, he'll still go down there and pay the rest of it, but until it does, and it might not ever, Scott. So we would need to pay the rest of it, I mean.
I understand what you're saying now, but I had, the last we were left with is that you had a private donor, and that led me to believe, oh good, it's all paid for.
It would be.
Well,
I thought I had the private donor, but there was no contract, don't get me wrong. And that's why I didn't ask for the sign, because he hasn't given me anything. I never asked for this before. I didn't ask y'all to take it out of the general fund because I had a private donor. And that private donor has not come through for me. Not to say he still won't. Talk to him every day. Right now, he's not able to. So, do we wait for private donor, or do we go ahead and buy?
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's all well and good. I'm just trying to find out what the discrepancy is here. Because all this adds up, like I said, 244, 124. But if you go down here to the general office administrative, if you add up the difference between last year and the proposed, it's 223,506. But you would have to if you take out the sign, the difference is 65,618, so where is that going?
You mean the difference, because, well, we had to buy other office supplies and stuff too.
Okay.
That's including our office supplies.
Okay.
Yeah, that's everything.
Okay.
So that's the difference. Paper.
And
You wouldn't believe
one more
it.
question, why do we have a post office box?
Why do we have a post office? Get on mail.
It's more secure.
Because we get mail on Saturdays and Sundays, and we don't have a drop box here because it's not a, that's the thing.
We've always had.
I'm just a virgin, so I don't know.
No, you're fine.
We
Yeah.
always take it, right.
I just,
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to see just a huge report of everything we spend money on, line item out. That'd be great. But, you know, see that in the cards.
And sometimes, we can also get mail at 62 Grand Street too, but, you know, most of the time, like in Stephen City, Commercial here comes.
No, that's fine, I completely understand.
Okay.
I'm just looking through your proposals that you did include, what, the Denton's TV store proposal, what's that for? Is that what it is?
Monitors in this room.
I assumed, but I want to be sure.
Let's do a PowerPoint budget.
To do the scanning, would we have to get somebody in here to do it? Or, man, how would you all have time to do it?
They're gonna come get some stuff and take it with them.
Okay.
And the most important thing right now is like minute books, resolutions, ordinances. That's where we're gonna start.
Once we get it all scanned, that's the historical part.
Right.
Yeah, once we
Yeah,
get all
that's
that,
what I'm talking about.
then the day-to-day stuff,
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
can do
this
it
is
ourselves.
go straight where it's supposed to go to.
Who do we contract mowing to?
Justin Haynes.
Yeah, Hayes one.
I thought we had mowers and people who ran them on our,
We do the sides of the roads, guardrails, that kind of thing. They mow the yards.
like the field at the center and the fire.
So,
$1,000 in.
Wait, what? It's more than one.
Contract work,
Which one are you looking at?
this one here, it says $25K last year, $24,750.
No, that's the proposed, so that was my question, why is it decreasing?
Well, that's a good question too, but why are we paying $1,000
it was
a month
just,
to do that?
the 25,000 is just in case
What's
we
that?
have a contract for something else, you
Do
know.
what?
A month.
Oh, yeah, 2,000, sorry, my math. 2,000, that's even worse.
And then he mows here too, because it's in a ballpark.
So our equipment won't handle that, and
Well, I think it's more of a manpower issue, isn't it?
So it's manpower, but, you know,
And to give you all like an idea, just me, my mowing budget is about $1,200 a month just for what we own. And so I could see it being $2,000 for everything in the city. And that's the issue too, you know, and I do believe that's a good point, Scott, at some point, we're gonna need to increase the size of our city. Because you'll actually save money. I mean, yes, you gotta hire a person and blah, 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 but with all the stuff you'll gain in the long run, will eventually save over. Same with an IT guy. At some point, I'd love to see us have an IT guy in-house. He or she may not be, you know, as big or as a conglomerate as this, but they can handle the small things, because once we get all this stuff, somebody's gotta maintain it, somebody's gotta, you know,
That is something that they do. Their proposal is that we call them and they will fix it. So they can actually log in and fix stuff.
I wonder what that fee is for that.
It's included, and that's the thousand,
Gotcha.
yeah.
So,
That would be my curiosity.
is it 3,000 a month? Was that for something else?
It's 3,000 a
Three
month for
thousand a
all,
month for all.
all months.
Yeah. Yeah. And once again, you're right, I mean, like, we went to a city planner, you know,
Right.
and we used to pay somebody, but that's worked out much better for us. It could be at some point, if we get larger and our demands grow, we might could share, again, we could do the same thing,
I
maybe
agree.
with the county, something like that, and have, you know, an IT
Share that
person.
together.
Yeah, share an IT person, share, I don't know, we could look at something like that, later on, down the line.
So did you get your question answered why it went down?
No.
Well, I just budgeted what he did charge, and then just in case something comes up, we had to have somebody to do some contract work. I budgeted too much last year.
So is this person also going to end up being responsible for the nature park when that goes online?
What, you're talking about Justin?
For mowing, any,
So right now, we're mowing that because, I mean, it's
right,
Or bush
areas, we
hogging.
can do that with the bush hogging.
Okay.
So,
but in
there
the
may
future when
be,
it opens?
so I would envision, that, should there be a nature center at the nature park, there will probably be some manicured lawn around that, and he may do that. But I would say that the general, 30 acres is now field, we would take care of that.
So do we need to increase it though, because we talked that it might start next spring?
Construction might start next spring, so I think you would probably get through the mowing season next year without having to deal with that.
Okay, thank you.
Does his contract self-renew, or does it come up for bid every other year or something like that?
So, like that, anything under 25, currently, he's just going year to year.
So we don't put it out for bid?
We have not.
I don't know, 18,000 a year sounds pretty good for IT support.
Well, and I'm not saying it's not. I'm curious, like, when we start getting actual competitive bids to see what that maintenance number is, because I feel like that maintenance number is going to be important, because we're gonna need that as far as what they provide and how much it costs, and do you cover this and that? Because past experiences, the initial cost is expensive, but the maintenance is, that stuff is very sensitive. But I agree with you, yeah, that's probably terrible, no.
So going over to the fire and first responders portion of the budget. So if we're saying this year that it was $28,256 for dispatching, excuse me, do we think that 9,000 is going to be sufficient for next year?
According to the figures they gave.
I'm just curious because when Chief Deal is here and he talks about it, it seems like they're making more and more medical calls or welfare checks. So if that portion is increasing, then the concept of the cost decreasing doesn't make much sense to me.
He said just to leave everything, the same, and the reason I went ahead and increased it to 9 due to what happened to us this year.
I just think going from 28 to 9 is such a big drop.
Where are you reading?
Right, here on this. That one up there. Plan.
79.
79.
Is that the number you're on?
Yes, but looking at our amended budget, we're saying we had to amend it to 28,256, so going from almost 30 down to 9 is a big drop.
And they,
But that didn't have anything to do with the new equipment or anything.
you know, what it is, we've got a budget from the 911 system, and that's what they told us it's gonna cost us for this upcoming year. We'll see.
So, this says 7,000 is what we budgeted last year.
Right.
But we had that.
So where do we get that?
From E911 plus that estimate.
Right, so their estimate was off threefold,
Not very good estimate, are they?
fourfold?
Yes.
So we might want to up that number, because I have no faith in that estimate being correct for the next fiscal year from them. If you're off that far last year, I don't see you being that close to correct the next year.
And you know, the estimate they had for the police department this upcoming fiscal year, 66, and it was 80-some thousand.
But did you make a statement that something about Dixon was lower than what they had been estimated?
Yeah, Chief mentioned that, and it's, I mean, it would probably throw the numbers off, but again, I'm.
But I mean, what I'm getting, are we picking up in the whole scheme of things, if Dixon didn't use it as much, but then are we?
If we had 100
We're
calls
carrying
and
more.
Dixon had 200, we'd pay for a third. If they dropped to 150, we still had 100, we'd go up to 40%. You know, it's got to add up, everything adds up to the 100%, you're just a nominator in that, and your percentage can change if the overall goes down. I don't know why City of Dixon calls like that.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Why is there,
It's kind of hard to really project then, because you don't know what the other towns are gonna be. I mean,
Right.
yeah. Anyway, go ahead,
But
I'm
we'll
sorry.
have to just amend the budget, Brian, I guess, again, in that area. It's,
So I guess maybe just put that in our pocket and know that's probably going to happen.
Probably gonna happen. Scott, I didn't mean to interrupt you. What was your question?
I'm trying to remember what else.
you don't like me.
Why are there two separate, mobile dispatchers? Why wouldn't it just be all encompassing on, you know, police and fire, the same thing?
The two different departments.
So-
They're different.
Well, I know in our government, it's two different departments, but as far as the dispatch is concerned.
But the dispatch could go to police or it could go to fire.
Yeah,
Like
they
a
can
medical
different
call.
Right. Okay. And there's no way to hold their feet to the fire by giving us an erroneous estimate?
Their answer is going to be, it costs what it costs, and you were this percentage of it. Or you can come off the system and build your own E911 system.
That sounds like
Because they set
federal
that.
government.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, where are we at now?
So like in the street department, it's like, the veterans, just, 75,000, we put that back in the budget. Let's see. We have the supplies and materials. Because we're maybe getting a new bush hog. Well, no, he said he didn't want a new bush hog, he's gonna get that big, yeah.
It's just a cost, I mean, it's just a cost of material.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just,
Everything's just gone up.
Is the new tractor for an additional tractor or to replace an existing one?
that's the track,
Or was
That's
that
the
the
tractor
debt
that we
service
bought.
payment?
that's the note
Okay.
on the tractor we got last year or year before.
Oh, and going back over, in the police department, I forgot to tell you all this, but I did, I just guessed at it. That debt service was 6 police cars. And I figured it'd be about 62.1 a year.
and we pay off the other note, how much would we pay in a month on it? Do you remember? Approximately.
We borrowed 240,000, with this, we're gonna have to borrow 360, so.
Was it in the forties?
It seemed like it may have been,
That makes sense, it goes up about a third.
yeah.
I had a question on the 6 new police cars. I noticed in this proposal, it proposed at least 3 new police cars. Is this debt services payment for 6 new police
Yes,
cars?
it's 6.
So is that 3 that we're already paying on, or plus the 3 he's suggesting, or is it, how is that working?
It's 3 that he said, he's wanting 6 cars,
Okay,
yeah.
because the proposal that he signed was at least 3, so
Yeah.
it has changed to
But
6.
he would, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
We prefer,
Prefer
6.
Yeah, prefer 6. And when you're buying you're better off if it goes
You don't
the
want
whole
to take out
fleet.
that thing?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
How about 10?
And then they'll be sitting out in the parking lot.
Okay.
And he also, Chris said, we can sell these old police cars and recoup some of our money. He said he thought maybe we could get 10,000 by putting them on that gov deal a piece, the old ones. So that would be.
Might take care of 1 month's payment.
Yeah, it would help. We can put it back toward the loan.
Yeah, for the loan, yeah. Okay. So we've covered street department, sanitation, you see, we talked about the bid that we got. We're paying now $174, the bid, if we want to continue, is $237,600. So if you approve this budget Tuesday night, on first reading, we'll go ahead and sign the contract on the second reading, yeah. Okay.
What?
The trash,
How long does it stay out for bid?
It's already come back in. I said if you approve this budget.
Oh, I thought you
Yeah,
said
you
it
got- no,
just
you
went
got-
out last week.
We got
Oh,
open,
yeah.
We opened the bids yesterday.
Right.
It's been out,
Was
it's been out
over.
for weeks.
I misunderstood.
Okay.
Parks and Recreation, I just do, Ms. Nick's gone up from 28,000 to 44,500. We're gonna paint the rest of the community center and, need a prior for the concession spread. It's all in your budget. Y'all got sheets there, what we, how we came up with these.
So as far as the disposal, do they do the garbage next door?
Community center. So they pick up town properties trash.
Okay. Well, I see John picking it up all the time out there.
Well, Johnny picked it up off the ground and put it in the
No,
trash.
I think he's emptying out the garbage cans with the bags and doing something with the bags. Okay.
Okay. Parks and Recreation, I think is pretty well self-explanatory, right, Melody? Yeah. Okay. Library, anybody got questions on that? Okay.
Well, actually, I do have a question on the Parks Director.
Okay.
The Parks Director, that's John.
Uh-huh.
Is he part-time?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
That's what I thought. What does that mean? As far as being part-time Parks Director?
So Johnny's responsible every day to open up certain facilities, restrooms, that kind of thing, picking up trash, going, making sure that things are right at, different places, field of greens, that kind of thing.
I mean, if it's not like you went part-time work at a company where you only work 20 hours a week. It's just, that's just what the parks director job is called part-time, but he actually just does when needed.
He does, I mean, he does a lot.
Oh, I know, I'm not saying he doesn't.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
I
We
mean,
have a job,
it seems like it'd be
we have a
full-time.
job description for the
Forever.
parks director, if you ever need to see.
Right,
what
it just
they
seems to
do.
me like it'd be a full-time deal.
It's gonna need.
As we bring the nature park online, we're gonna have to look at a full-time parks director.
Yeah. Johnny also works, he does things that, he works with the parks board. He,
Oh, I know.
he works with Little League, you know,
Yeah,
it's just, he just adds on and adds in,
Well,
you know.
I'm not trying to say anything negative.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
Yeah,
It seems like he does a whole lot for being a part-time guy.
he does, he does.
So does this all-inclusive budget cover everything that's been requested by the department heads and the,
And you've got, I think you've got it this year,
Yep.
wanting to see it, you know, when you see the
That's-
department
thank you.
heads, you know, and you got it,
I would
yeah,
like to say thank you.
yeah.
So, looking at the net income loss for the general fund, why are we expecting that to decrease $411,000?
The first, with this upcoming year, we're gonna have to pay a lot of upfront, with these technologies that we're talking about. And then after that, we just pay so much a year.
So we're thinking 400,000 of that's gonna come out of our general fund,
Probably so.
our fund balance,
Mm-hmm,
rather than from the revenue.
right.
So,
So we can build that fund balance back up probably
build
pretty
it,
quick.
yeah, since they build it on that, though, we're hoping if this revenue hits,
Mm-hmm,
that will go back, I mean, that,
Yeah.
we will pay it up front, take it, you know.
right,
But this, the revenue coming in projected should pay it back,
yeah,
and
exactly.
put it back in budget.
These are things that we're going to extend to, that's one thing about the fund balances, and then we're so protective of it. If things come up, we're just going to have to use it, you know, for one-time expense, and that would be for the technology, the IT, the security, cybersecurity, and all that sort of stuff.
Please help my literacy and/or maybe I missed it, but it looks like the local option sales tax is decreasing no matter what. Is that just because the county decreased their sales tax?
No, it's because we budgeted too much last year.
Okay, so that's just a correction.
Yeah, that's good.
This number is based on the projections
Projections,
y'all
yeah.
have in here.
Okay,
It was done on the tool estimator.
gotcha. I tried to read that tool estimator, I didn't do a great job.
So does the tool estimator, does it in any way take into account new businesses that are coming into the area?
No,
No.
no.
So I'm assuming, I got a couple of things. One, I'm assuming we're going to have to pick a budget to pass, and then pass that budget out of these two.
Or suggest edits to one of them.
Okay, so are we ready to suggest edits if we can?
You go ahead.
So,
You're talking about now all inclusive, right?
I'm talking about on both. I would like to see this added to both, so either one we go with. And that would be my question, like, can I, as a council member, can I request a vote on amending both budgets to include what I'm asking for? Like, is that, Mr. Andrew, is that like, if I want to add something to either or both budgets, can I request a vote on that particular item?
Tuesday.
Tuesday, okay.
Yeah, the best way procedurally to handle, well, we got budget A and budget B, right?
Right.
I'm assuming
Well,
you're meaning a line item, right?
Yeah, talk about which one you're talking about, and then say, I would like a motion to change, the business tax, or probably expense would be better, but to change, the post office, whatever, from 6 to 7. Whatever you want it to be, you say that, you get a second, further discussion, and full vote.
I'm gonna give you all the, what's coming Tuesday, because I'm gonna ask for it. So I've been studying on this police department thing from the time that we started discussing this. And I do realize we had that audit, which is fine, but as far as our officers go, they fall at the bottom floor of that audit. So McEwen, we're starting out at 25 an hour. County, we're starting out around 26 and some change. White Bluff starts out around 24. I realize, you know, they're both comparable cities, but you're looking at a 5.9 square mile area in White Bluff, or you're only looking at a 1.9 square mile area in McEwen, and they're making more than our officers there. So what's gonna happen, and this is my concern, me and Jeff talked about this, is, you know, if you've got an officer that is looking at the pay scale, he can go to McEwen and make more on the hour, because they're certified, White Bluff will be 25 an hour, McEwen's 27. So you can go to an area that's roughly a third of the size and make roughly $2 more on the hour. So my concern is, and I'm not saying this would happen, but I don't want to lose our best officers over a couple of dollars an hour to a neighboring community, which really isn't that far, considering they'll give you a car to drive home. So you're not increasing your gas expense, but you're increasing your pay $2 an hour. So if we got the 10%, and I realize, you know, we'd like to keep this across the board, but factually, I don't think we need to do across the board all the time. You know, I'm not a favor of that, because you've got these guys that are, you know, the street department is great. Like, those guys do a lot of work. A lot of people give them a hard time, but they really do. And I'm not saying they don't deserve more money, but they're not getting shot at. They're not taking the liability of, if they have to shoot somebody, their life is technically over if they make a mistake. That, to me, should be considered when we talk about money. So what Chris had asked for was 10%, which would bring an officer that made $24.21 up to $26.71, which would start them more than McEwen and basically let them compete with the county, which is where I feel we will lose people, is to the county, not necessarily McEwen, even though McEwen does pay more. I think in the long run, our competitor is the county. So, and I've heard the argument, well, you know, and this is the argument they used to give for maintenance. Well, if the maintenance guy leaves and goes to make more money, we'll just hire another maintenance guy. The problem with that is you don't get the quality of the maintenance guy you lost, and you're not going to get the quality of the officer you lost, because they're going to come here because we're at the bottom floor of the scale. The ones that are going to come are the ones that are, you know, quote unquote, left over from the pool, because everybody else has gone to make more money. And I can't argue that. I mean, I do think leaving the street department to make more money in McEwen would be a bad decision to drive that far. But as an officer, you know, like I say, you get a car, you get a gas card, and, you know, you're protecting less of an area for more money, which lowers your liability, in my opinion, as far as something happening to you. So I'm going to suggest that we go with his initial 10% suggestion, and leave 5% across the rest of the board, and then perhaps next year pick another department, whatever that may be, if we feel that we need to. I just don't think we need to stick with this, because the jobs aren't the same. That's the thing. Like, the jobs aren't the same. You can't really compare, and I've got 20 years of maintenance experience, you can't compare a maintenance guy to an officer and say they need to get the same pay rate. I just don't think that's accurate. So I'm going to ask you guys to put that in both these budgets, and I'm going to ask for a vote. So you guys, that'll give you something to think about. But I would like anybody that's got anything to say to...
I can't disagree with anything you said, and like you said, what's this with the scale of losing a veteran maintenance guy versus losing a veteran officer? That's two different weights.
Exactly. I mean,
and I'm not trying to diminish anyone, but I'm just, facts are facts.
Well, and if you get a higher quality officer, and it's facts, like, I don't want to pick on anybody, but it's facts. You've got high quality officers, you've got low quality officers. They're all over the county, they're all over everywhere. If you get a higher quality officer, your liability goes down as a city. Because if that guy or gal makes a mistake, it's us all day long. So, you know, and that's what we're paying for. We're paying for the cream of the crop. Because I don't want that liability, because I've seen what happens. You know, they make one bad decision or one decision in the heat of the moment, and the city's paying out thousands, if not millions of dollars to cover that liability lawsuit. So...
Well, to couple that, I'm not necessarily married to scales on raises right now anyway, so I've seen that difficulty across the board in any industry, because whenever you're married to a scale on you can have up to a percentage, when inflation does what it's been doing, that scale's out the window. That's why we've seen the stats come out about, hey, if you want to raise, the fastest way to get a raise is to quit and go work somewhere else. Because what happens is the veteran loyal employees are married and bonded to a scale, whereas then they're changing the entry level. Anyways, it's all that. But my point is I'm not overly married to the concept of a scale, even though it's necessary as guidelines, but I'm just saying that we always need to take that in view of the competition, in view of the industry, in view of inflation. I'm just saying, I don't see the scale as being, I see it more like, Pirates of the Caribbean, it's more like guidelines. I know that sounds horrible, but it's
Well,
just.
I'm gonna take what Stephanie said, 'cause she's absolutely correct. In the last budget, I voted in a way that I did not want to vote because I wanted us to be united with that vote. And I hope that you guys were right. I did. I hope that the money would be there. I did not think it would, and so I should have voted the opposite direction. Whereas on this go around, you know, I'm gonna want this in here. If we vote it down, then it won't be me that votes it down. So that's what I'm gonna ask for, is the initial 10% just for, the police department.
So I tried to do some calculations, that would, and I'm just looking at the all-inclusive, because this one, to me, this one is everybody, and it really doesn't mean anything to me.
I got you.
It would, the police salaries right now it's at $421,436 being budgeted.
It would increase 5%.
$46,054.80 according to what is being requested on chief's sheet, right?
How much would that be? If you added you said add 4 to 6,000 to what we've already got here?
It would increase, it would go to $467,500.80.
So that's what
That would be, if we did everything that's just like is on the chief's budget sheet. That's what it would be.
And remember, you have to, this will increase your overtime salary.
True. Well, and I will even argue that, and I'll ask Chris, that the additional officer, will that, in your opinion, lower the overtime amount, do you think, or we don't really know that answer?
Typically, it should.
Okay.
Now, that's based on, I don't know what Macy, what's going to happen with Macy, because right now, we're down an officer.
Right. And so technically,
Macy has expressed interest in moving over into Misty's position, which would open back up for that slot if we can find 2 officers
so
to hire.
let me ask you this question. So right now, we're budgeted already for Macy, but she's not going to be taking a paycheck at this time.
She is earning her vacation, sick, and comp time. I don't think she has a whole lot more time left.
Will that end before the end of this fiscal year, 14/30th?
Yes, ma'am.
But she won't miss it by much, because, I mean, you think about it, we ain't got that much longer to go, so we might pay, it might be in the budget, I'd just say an extra 3 or 4 weeks that will, it's in the budget that we don't.
Some of the officers, I know I spoke with Jill, some of the employees are interested in donating time, sick leave, comp time, or vacation, to help her until something can be done.
But I don't argue with what you say. The overtime rates will go up, absolutely.
It will, and then, of course, we would increase the line of vacation pay. I mean, that will increase some. That's it. I have a question. I'm not against what you're saying, but I do have a question. When you're comparing this to McEwen, how many officers do they have?
I don't know. Do you know that answer, Chris?
I'm sorry?
How many officers does McEwen currently have?
We may have 4.
4?
And I don't really know that, my opinion, and Chris may correct me, my opinion is that if you're going to lose them, you would lose them more than likely to the county. That would be what I would think. And a lot has to do with who your police chief is and who your sheriff is as far as how that goes. Like some of these guys I know personally are loyal to us because of Chris. So if Chris leaves and you get somebody that's not who they particularly want to work for, then they're definitely going to take an increase in pay and go to work for somebody that they, it just concerns me that, and really, it's not, in the big picture of all this budget, that's not that much money. It's really not, especially not for what, in my opinion, you're getting. not only in the quality of your officers, but also the liability, protection for us as a city.
I'm gonna guess it's gonna be an extra $60,000 or something, probably.
I don't know that we would need to increase, because 60,000 is what Chris is asking for overtime. And that's what's on here already. So we're already saying, yes.
I got what you're saying, so we're
Yeah,
already paying
so we
overtime for
would,
the,
why would we need to increase
right,
that?
you're
Because
correct.
if they work overtime, their salary's gonna be a lot.
Well, but this
Okay,
is
but
based
this
on
is
his,
what he's asking for.
yeah, that's on the 10%, like he's
Yeah,
asked
this
for
is on
10%,
the
and includes that.
It's already included.
Right.
Okay, okay, all right,
So the overtime figure may have been overstated based upon.
that's what I'm wondering.
Yes.
Okay. And the vacation pay, how we gonna take that? How many vacation, I mean, we give them 2 weeks, and you've got, how many would that be totaling? That,
That's according to what they make.
yeah.
Yeah. That
I
was
know,
our-
I'm just going right now, I don't want to just say 10% here, if we raise it to 10%.
Right.
That I know would have to increase,
Yeah.
not the overtime.
And like really and truly by the hour, I mean, you're gonna give them, $1.22 is what the 5% would gain, an officer making $24 approximately an hour. If we go to 10%, that number only jumps to $2.42, so you're really only going up $1.20 an hour on an officer that makes $24 with the increased, percentage. I just don't feel that's a substantial enough number compared to the numbers in this budget to really even be, a great concern.
What you get versus what you spend.
And that's gonna be what happens, I mean, in all honesty. And I've seen it, like it's happened here in the past, so, and it'll happen again. And we've been lucky, I mean, with some of the stuff that has occurred.
It's general rule. I mean, right now, my side note that my parents are griping about is because their town trains them only to 2 years later get hired by the next town over.
And that's basically
And
what we're
that's
going to begin to
over
see,
and
the
over.
ones that are above and beyond the quote-unquote norm are going to leave. Because not only with the county, we're not only competing with the salary, we're competing with the opportunity to advance, to climb the ladder. Because here, there's assistant chief and chief, basically. Whereas if you go to the county, I mean, there's a lot of different areas you could spread out into. But that's just fair warning, I'm coming, so y'all be ready.
Coming for us.
I'm coming for y'all.
You seemed like you had a list, is it only that one, or?
That is my main concern. I'm really, really happy. I agree with Connie. The basic budget is not something that I will consider or vote on with a positive vote, because I want the firemen that we're getting and the extra officer that we're getting, and definitely the IT stuff and the cyber protection. I just think the basic budget for me is a definite no.
I just wanted to show you all those.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
This is absolutely what we need
Yeah.
right here.
What if we don't do something, if we don't, I mean, we're gonna have to start buying some new equipment, adding personnel. If we don't, here's where we are, here's what we still got to bring in, try to build this jump fund back up. Anyway,
Thank
okay.
you so much, y'all, for how many trees you killed today. And I mean that.
And I will tell you, okay, this is probably not something that we are going to be discussing, because this is between the county and each citizen, but the majority of the tax increases, estimate tax on my properties myself, I would not sell it for. So,
Oh, yeah,
you still are below market value in their appraisals. I know people's like, well, my lot appraised for $50,000, I'll give you 60. I don't, or 70, depending on where it's at. I just don't think they're overly.
When mine came back, it was beneath what I had just gotten it appraised for.
So there you are. I mean, that's.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's saying that, what they have appraised mine for, there's no way I would sell it for
Oh,
that.
absolutely not.
No.
For real numbers, I want to say they did my property, my tax ones came back at like 270s, and it just appraised for 350.
Exactly.
Just for real, those are real numbers.
I've got papers spread out here, guys. So let me see, let me kind of put myself back together here.
This is the longest I've spent with y'all in a while. I
Fire
really miss y'all. I want you to know.
We're-
I think we're going to number 6 next.
Okay, wait just a minute.
Number 6.
Y'all aren't halfway through the agenda yet, so keep that in mind.
I told my wife, I was like, it's gonna be a long one.
Okay, all this is going together. Okay. We're going up to, okay, so have we pretty much said what we need to say about today? And I will say this, before, if you have any questions, before you get to the council meeting, if you can, give us all a heads up. Yeah, because instead of waiting until that night and then we don't have the answers. Can't discuss, okay. Are we ready to move on then, or y'all ready to move on? Yes, please.
All of it.
Okay, yeah, I know, I think it's Cliff, he's supposed to sleep back there. Okay, discuss now into codes and permits the service. Lord, I can't even read now. Discuss first reading, rezoning request for map 096J, Reserve parcel 012.00, which is basically 1022 Town Road from C1 Central Business District to R2 Medium Density Residential. And yeah, this is already gone through the planning, and of course it has to come to council anyway, because they've already.
Are you ready, sir? So,
2.5 hours late.
I think I know.
Hey, do you want to come and work for free tomorrow?
That's a good idea. So I have a couple questions for you. I'm actually, I've looked at this property myself about buying it over the years, and I know some of the history on this property. And so, a couple of reasons that I haven't been more aggressive about purchasing this property myself is because with the commercial zoning, I'll ask you, so you remember the ice cream shop? What happened to the ice cream shop? Fair. Remember the haircutting place? What happened to the haircutting place? And so that's my point. If I wanted to open a Pappy's over there, where's my Cisco truck going to park and unload? If I want to open a Taco Bell, which I've heard the argument, it would be good for a lawyer's office or an accountant's office. The problem is that lowers your pool of renters so low that building a commercial building there, you're not going to get the rental income to even pay for the structure. Not only that, it's just not lucrative, because even the rent rates when they were there, if I'm not mistaken, the haircut guy I think was paying $400 a month, because I looked into what he was paying to see whether or not I wanted to buy this building. $400 a month wouldn't even fund the building that was there, much less a new structure, and I don't want to see him throw up a metal building for a tire shop or something of that nature. That's not the vision. I would much rather have a house that we can convert to a lawyer's office when the rent amounts actually justify that area. So that's where I'm at, and I know some of you guys are opposed to this being changed. I know, it's one of those things that you hate to lose your commercial, but my gut feeling, that's not a good area for commercial to begin with.
Okay, I'll make a statement that it has gone through the planning, and they turned it down and recommended that the council do.
I disagree with planning. I do. I just respectfully, but I do. As a businessman, I couldn't purchase it to do a commercial activity. So, and I feel that he's probably in the same boat.
Sarah, did he give you, what was the reason that the planning was
The planning, I think it was mostly like a target zoning or spot zoning. Everything around it is residential. What, it's not like now?
Don't say spot zoning.
Okay, spot zoning, whatever, but it just was, everything around it so far, going down that side on Hellertown, is commercial.
But, and I hate to throw this guy under the bus, but the guy that actually owns the commercial building next door is using it as a residential property because he cannot, I'm assuming, make it lucrative to make a commercial, unit. So, and I'm not trying to pick on him. I think that's probably smart, but that's what I see is the issue there.
Which one?
That would be this one. It was an insurance office, now it's a residence.
But are they renting it out?
I don't know if he's living there or renting it out, but either way, he's going against the zoning. And I think because he doesn't feel there's a better option. And I don't know, So, right there was the beauty salon. To my knowledge, that has gone out of business as well, is no longer there either.
Yeah,
No,
but
it
I
is.
think they have a photographer or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what's
there's a-
property?
Right. She didn't leave because she wasn't making.
Do you know what the rent amount is on that structure?
It's 1,000.
Well,
Just to be fair, Travis, who was the guy who cut hair, he didn't fail. He lived in Dixon.
Well, he told me, he still cut my hair, he did it the other day, he's working in Dixon at Docks, and he says the difference in the income is substantial. So I do think him living in Dixon had a lot to do with it, but I also believe that for the income he was making and the hours he was having to put in to get that income wasn't worth it.
Well, you're right. But he works for somebody now.
Correct.
So he doesn't have
He doesn't have the overhead.
the overhead,
Exactly.
the business ownership, and all that stuff.
You're correct.
He's in a much better place.
Oh, I agree with you.
And what really put Travis under was COVID.
Yeah.
That he was good, he was great.
And the beauty salon, she actually got pregnant, and she wanted to, she didn't want to maintain a salon anymore. She didn't fail, you're right.
No, she's traveling all over. She's going to Germany to live for a while. She got a baby. I mean, but
And two, I would like to add, those are also based on $400 to $500 rent. You mentioned they didn't fail. If you put a new structure there, you're looking $3,000 to $5,000 rent.
And I think the beauty salon was
So,
1,000, where the beauty salon was, where the photographer is now, that was 1,000.
But doesn't the city own that beauty salon?
we own the brick building. We own that.
I assume that you contacted me.
yes, sir.
Okay. I mean, I would much rather see a house there.
Now, did we discuss, so he's only wanted to do one house. He can put that restriction on that himself?
Yeah, so that came out at the PC, and it's in Amanda's report. I'll give you back two salient points. From an individual lot standpoint, it's difficult for staff to recommend favorably when there's no zoning district bordering it. So I think you're bringing up a great point, and it may merit that entire area getting looked at by perhaps the PC and the council, but I'm never going to recommend it. I don't think Amanda is, if there's nothing bordering it. Because now you've got this zoning designation can be used, hey, it's next door to it, versus it wasn't before. But the applicant did, due to a concern of duplexes, limit the use, the permitted use that could be on that property to single family only. It's called a self-imposed condition. He offered it as a zone volition. It would be part of the zoning ordinance, so it would run with the land. So we've done that before. He's offering that to say he's not going to put a duplex on there. Whether that matters to this body or not, it's up to y'all, but he has offered that, so that's part of his application right now. But from a planning standpoint, and I don't want to take words out of Amanda's mouth and let her comment on it, but there's no R2 around it, that makes it difficult from a planning perspective. Now, this whole area needs to be looked at, okay, this is a bad commercial area. I think that's a broader conversation, but just take all of that into account of why you're seeing what you're seeing.
It's my understanding you were going for R2 as opposed to R1, just simply because of the setback necessities, correct?
Well, it's
Lot
lot
size.
size.
Lot size.
Lot size,
So
okay.
it's too small.
Lot size. So,
And I know it's a topic for a different day, depending on how this vote goes, but for me, I would even do R1 with a variance on size requirement. All I'm trying to do is just one targeted thing. I'm just taking the path of least resistance to get there.
so you're proposing an R2 with a self-imposed restriction?
Correct.
So that'll be on for first reading. You'll have time to think on it. It'll take two readings.
I don't mind just making a statement. I know he and I had spoken privately as well, and we had talked, and of course, I know that nothing can go into, I suppose, written form, other than his man, his word is man. But me and him had talked about design, so that way, making sure that if he was to build a single family, it would be an easy convertible building, so that if a real estate office or lawyer office decided to come in there for that building, it would be easily convertible.
So are you gonna rent it or sell it?
And the plan is to sell.
Okay.
But should that time ever come that someone wanted to take that existing building and convert it into a commercial,
Then we'd have to rezone it back to commercial.
but the point is the building wouldn't have to change the structure.
You can get a home office, but that's,
Yeah.
We haven't heard from Amanda. Amanda, do you want to say something? I mean, what,
Actually, I mean, Andrew encapsulated it very well. From a planning perspective, you know, I can't recommend rezoning this area or rezoning this property. And we've talked quite a bit. I mean, and he's pursuing his rights, you know, and bringing it to the body. I do think that this area warrants much more study. The planner part of me wants to just slow down and look at the area. I think that it's admirable that Cliff has offered that self-imposed restriction. Not many people would, and I think that goes a lot toward character. I also think that that can cause complications down the road for the next person coming in. So even though it's really great for the moment, I think long-term, it doesn't fit with what you all have put in motion, and have kept in motion for that area. So I appreciate the opportunity to address on this issue.
Of course, the self-imposition wouldn't, my question really where I'm going, let me just be direct, would be on the R2 versus R2A thing we at one point talked about.
that R2A thing, we're working on something for that later, so that we can't do that now, but yeah, the self-imposed condition is the only way to limit the uses. I mean, you take all the permitted uses of the zoning district, someone could say, I'm only gonna, you know, I'll impose, so I'm gonna do 2 and 4 or whatever. You can do that, but that's what, he's limiting it to one use being single family.
I agree with Amanda that that's a little bit of a gray area for us, but also, you know, in his situation, I probably wouldn't be as adamant about it if he was gonna do a duplex or a triplex there. And what I would hate to happen is for we'd have voted in his R2, and then he, you know, have a health problem or financial difficulty and have to sell, and somebody come in there and slam, you know, a triplex in there. So, because even though I'm not a favor of it being a commercial area, I'm not necessarily in favor of what we have across the street from it either in the church building. That's not what I have envisioned for that area at all. So.
I think my idea on it is, if we're gonna do this, we need to just look in at the whole area. I
absolutely
can't,
agree with that
I
statement.
cannot, I just can't foresee just a family living in a new house there, and then there's commercial stuff
Well, but
all
there's
up
not,
and down
like
the
it's
street.
residential right next door, even though he's out of zoning, I mean, that's what's there. So you technically building a residential home next to a residential home. You know,
But she used it as commercial.
yeah, but that's the point, like, it's not now, and I don't think it ever will be, because of the area, it's just, I mean, the road, we all talk about how narrow that road is, it's just not a good, in my opinion, a good commercial area, even though that's how it's zoned. As a business owner, I would not buy a building on that street.
Road is an issue, and that's going to go on a bigger issue in the future.
I don't know and there's gonna be an argument that we have down the road, is that an area that we wanna see grow commercially? Because if it is, I think we've already made the mistake of floating it with houses. Because we probably shouldn't have done that if we were going to make that a commercial district, in my opinion.
On the road,
Absolutely.
the road already needs to be widened just for the houses, not even considered.
Well, it's got 2 houses across the street that have been grandfathered in, no doubt about that, right?
Well, I don't know that they're
They're-
grandfathered, they've just always been residential.
Well, they were residential, that's what I'm saying. If we did make that area commercial, they're grandfathered in until,
Well, and that's gonna be the case with the guy next door, because even though, you know, unless we enforce that zone on him, which I would recommend doing, I mean, he can stay commercial as long as he wants to, and live in it, as long as we don't, you know, pursue that, you know.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think, and of course, I'm not as familiar with the individuals or the individual properties we're talking about as you all are, but what I would encourage this council to think about is the underlying factors of what is and not what necessarily has transpired. So, you know, for the church, for example, you know, churches can go where they go. I mean, they're, you know, they have certain privileges, and they have certain protections that other uses do not.
Right.
Okay, so, and that includes what happens within their walls. So in the way my planner brain works, that's kind of that's an apples to oranges. That doesn't even compute. If there's a use that's happening at this moment that may or may not be in violation of a current zoning status, that, in my opinion, is an enforcement issue, not a underlying zoning designation issue.
Right.
So I think I would urge the council to not confuse those two things in their consideration of the area, in any area, regardless. I agree there are many areas in town where streets are too narrow for whatever use they've got, whether it's strictly residential or kind of this minor commercial type thing. I know that's something that Jeff and I have talked about quite a bit, and you know, what can we look at, what kind of studies, what kind of grants can we go after to look at those sort of things. You know, so I just really want to urge you guys to kind of keep that partitioned in your conversation.
Got you.
The one thing I'll add to that is zoning's perspective, like, y'all could, won't advise it, you could zone the entire town commercial, and no one's going to have to change what they're doing.
Right.
It only applies to, they come in for a permit to do something new.
Gotcha.
That's what that is. So like, this body could say, let's designate a section of town, and we're gonna make one zoning designation for that entire section of town, because we feel that's in the best interest of our growth and comp plan, talk about later. You know, you could do that, and it's not gonna affect anybody except what they do in the future.
Well, I have a question about that, so it's unrelated but yet related. So if we did something like that, and I'm gonna give you a good example, we've got a duplex. They tax me commercially on the duplex, but it's not commercial, it's not zoned commercial, it's not used as commercial. So I said, well, that's fine, I'm gonna put a haircut shop in one side. And they're like, oh, you know, you can't do that. I'm like, no, but you designated me a commercial tax structure. So if we...
Who's designating you?
The county.
What?
The county.
Yeah, they're not in charge of our zoning, though.
Well, but if we do rezone a section commercial, would your tax rate go up based on that designation? Like, would your property value increase based on now you're going to call that a commercial building when it's technically not?
And I'm confused, because I thought we couldn't designate things as a zoning unless the owner came up and asked for a zoning change.
No, you have the power to do, we call them overlays, but it's basically you pick a section, or the entire town. There's jurisdictions that have literally looked at the entire town and picked, like, so, in her report, it's a great little example. In that report that you see at page 2, your zoning map, the way it's colored, at one point back in the day, the town went through and said, this area is commercial, this area is R1, this area is R2, this area is R3. They did a master overlay.
You're correct, yes, I do, I recall that.
You can do that again, that's a huge undertaking, but no, you can rezone the entire town.
Ad nauseum, I could not do that. And we had to wait until the owner came up and asked for a zoning change, that we could just come in and say, oh.
I don't think it's good to do it for one parcel. You can't just say, hey, I don't like Mr. Smith at 1911, I'm just going to rezone him. But if you're looking at a broad use category, absolutely.
Multiple times I could not.
Who told you that? It wasn't us.
Well, and I agree with you what you're saying, Carl, as far as like what you just said. Like, I'm just going to go over there and rezone, you know, example, house next door is, well, we're just going to rezone your residential. We can't probably do that, but you could say the whole road to Taylortown is now commercial. Even though there's houses all over it, it's commercial.
And that may not be a good policy,
Right.
You can. It's different.
Maybe not should, but can, right.
So, a couple things. So the first is, your use is not always tied to your zoning. Okay, so if, you know, I live in the county, and we've got, you can have multiple uses on one piece of property. You can have some that's greenbelted, you can have some that's residential, you have some that's commercial, I mean, whatever. You can have multiple uses. So, So when people pull up their tax card and they look at the use, that use does not, most of the time, will not match up with your zoning, period. And that's always a really difficult thing to kind of like navigate and try to explain, especially if there's a problem.
Yeah.
It's not the best time to try to explain things when it's an issue. The second thing is you can look at areas. Andrew is absolutely correct. You generally don't want to single out individual parcels and go, hey, we're gonna look at you today. No, you want to look at entire areas. In zoning ordinances, and this would be a great topic for a training session, but in zoning ordinances, you have protections built in for those people who have existing uses, like let's say Taylortown, that one section. Let's say, or, I don't know, take a section of town that's primarily residential, but you all envision that to be commercial in the future. You can designate this area will be commercial in the future, but that is envisioned once the residential uses are done. So when the people have sold, when the house is not there anymore, when those uses are effectively ceased. When they cease to exist, and there's lots of state laws that go into it, there's abandonment, there's lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of state rules about that. But that does not at all prohibit the person who is still living in that residential area, even though it's got this future commercial intent for it, from doing anything residential with their property. It doesn't stop them from improving their property. It doesn't stop them from putting in a swimming pool. It doesn't stop them from adding on a deck. It doesn't stop them from doing anything.
It wouldn't stop them from getting a permit and building a brand new house on a, a split off lot or something.
True. But in terms of your general residential, relatively minor improvements, it wouldn't stop you from doing that.
Yeah, grandfathering under Tennessee law says you can keep doing what you're doing, as long as you don't stop doing it for 30 months. I don't know why they picked 30 months, but as long as you don't stop, you get to do it. But anyway, I know we've kind of wandered off the point of this rezoning. Point is, if there's a broader thing that this body would like to send down to the PC to consider, I think this body should do that. Right now, you have a one-lot rezoning request before you. And I know there's a lot of pros and cons to it, I get it, but that's what's here.
Okay, so, we'll take this up Tuesday night. See you then.
Thank y'all. Just want to add, next time I come before y'all, it's not going to be on Thursday night. Thank y'all very much.
Don't come to work session. Yeah. Thank you, Clint.
Yeah.
Okay, discuss first reading zoning ordinance revision regarding woodland protection. Got that in here. This has gone through the planning. And here we are. This is about trees, and I'm a tree lover, but I'm not. Somebody's got to talk about this.
I will happily talk about
Okay.
about trees. Okay. So the intent, and I am going to, no pun intended, truncate. I went there. The presentation given the time. The overall intent of this woodland protection language is to protect trees en masse. Okay. I don't want us to get bogged down into thoughts of individual trees and individual species and individual whatevers. I want you all to really try to keep your thoughts at the overall looking at pieces of property and large areas of wooded property. Okay, so when we go through this. So this is intended to protect our wooded areas of White Bluff. That is the long and short of it. There are many reasons that this is something that could and should be considered by the town. Some of them we'll get into later on the agenda if we ever get there. feels like. But, I'm not suggesting that White Bluff go all environmentalist or anything, but there are some measures that I think are appropriate. Especially the fact that we've got Montgomery Vale State Park as a huge, partner to us. It's just worth looking at. This language goes hand in hand with the landscaping provisions that you all passed a couple of months ago. I think it was a couple months ago now. So everything is part of a bigger puzzle. And so with that, I will just jump in. Okay, so the standards of the section would apply to the approval of any new platted development, construction, any new residential dwellings, or any land disturbance activities, such as clearing, grading, filling, construction that requires a permit. Removal of existing vegetation which shouldn't occur on development or lot subject to the terms of the section until a permit has been issued. So basically what we want to do is we want to make sure that the town is aware of when development is going to happen. We don't want any kind of clear cutting or anything like that to happen prematurely. There's a time to do it. You have to do it. We understand that's a natural part of development, but there's a way to do it and there's a time to do it, and that's what this is intended to go into. The ordinance or the proposal goes into some definitions here. We talk about caliper. I know that a big part of the discussion is always going to be about clear cutting. Gives the definition of clear cutting where most of or all of the trees on the development or lots are cut down. And I want you to think about that. That is true, start down to the dirt, exposed soil, nothing is left.
Clay dirt?
Think worst case scenario. Yeah, think absolute worst case scenario. Whatever you think is your worst case scenario, that's what it probably is. Go into the definitions. Specimen trees are important to look at. And in this proposal, specimen trees are any tree in fair or better condition that equals or exceeds the following diameter sizes: 36-inch diameter breast height large hardwoods, 36-inch diameter breast height of large softwoods. I thought there was a section in here that there was examples of species.
Yeah.
Different.
We'll add those.
Okay, we're gonna add those back. There's another version that gives like your maples, your oaks, and everything in the appropriate sections, just to make it a little bit more user friendly. There have been some questions that I've gotten about, well, who determines what tree is in fair or better condition and that sort of thing. It's kind of like when you go to the doctor, you kind of have your ideal height and weight and blood pressure and cholesterol and all that sort of thing. They're the same kind of standards for trees.
Can I ask you a question about specimen trees, or you want to wait till the end?
Let's wait till the end, because otherwise we'll never get to do this. So trees in fair or better condition meet the following minimum standards. You have life expectancy greater than 15 years. You have structurally sound trunk and no major insect or pathological problem. If you remember a while ago, Tennessee had a major issue with the emerald ash borer that was wiping out all of the ash trees. There's no predator to it. There's no way to save those trees, so we were having major infestations. The ordinance that this is based on, I wrote at a time when that was the primary issue. So that's a lot of that history is in this. I want to kind of skip past the rest of the definitions for right now and kind of get into the meat of it, and then if we need to, we can come back. So otherwise, we could spend a lot of time on definitions, and I want to try to keep this moving. On technical standards, on tree retention, all specimen trees, again, going up to those three categories of specimen trees, should be retained on an individual lot of 1 acre or less. No tree should be cut, removed, pushed over, killed, or otherwise harmed during the course of development. Number 2 is the main part, existing tree retention standards. Table 6.05B establishes percentage of tree canopy on development lot as applicable, should be retained and protected based on the percentage of development covered by trees. So if you turn the page, you look at table 6.05. If you pull up any parcel on Parcel Viewer, and you look at a parcel and you can easily tell that there is a lot that is 91 to 100% covered in existing trees. You can just eyeball it. You can just see that it's got 91 to 100% coverage. If you're going to develop that, you need to keep a minimum of 48% existing trees on the site. Does that make sense? There's a scale there. So 81 to 90, you need to retain 51%. 51 to 60% existing tree coverage on the lot, 60% is the minimum that needs to be retained. This is a scale that's intended to give as much flexibility as possible, while still maintaining coverage. It's trying to strike that balance. There's not going to be one way that's going to make everybody happy. So that's a table that is certainly open for discussion. Tree replacement. If an applicant is unable to retain the trees required according to the table above, the applicant is obligated to replace lost trees in a manner sufficient that when the replacement trees reach maturity, the development of the lot shall comply with this section. We know that it's not always going to be possible to keep all the trees that we want. Sometimes trees are going to be located in impossible places for developers. There's just nothing that you can do about that. Those trees theoretically can be identified. If they cannot be relocated, they will have to be replaced.
Even specimen tree?
Specimen trees. And specimen trees are not necessarily fancy trees. I mean, I have an issue. I particularly don't like the term specimen trees. It makes it sound like more than what it is. It's just, these are the particular trees. They're healthy, they're mature, they have room for growth, they're established.
Not necessarily talking about 200-year-old oak.
Right. We're not talking about little saplings. We're talking about the ones that can really propagate. But for lack of a better term, specimen is what's in here. So applicants, when they come in for development, you've got to produce a tree replacement plan that demonstrates compliance with the table. Very similar to your landscaping ordinance. It includes planning schedules with the tree names, quantity, size, spacing, any kind of special planning notes. Trees that die or are severely injured need to be replaced with equivalent species and size. Again, the grading plan, if it shows it's impractical to preserve certain trees, there needs to be a plan for replacement. Remove trees 8 inches in diameter, breast height, or greater shall be replaced at a rate of 1 inch to 1 inch. Decisions concerning the application of the subsection may be appealed to the Board of Zoning Appeals because this would be an amendment to the zoning ordinance. When we get into section 4, which is development standards on retention of existing trees, this is kind of where we get into the meat and potatoes of it all. How do we figure out what we're looking at? Tree survey required for new dwellings. Before beginning any tree clearing or removal, development work, or land disturbance over 2,500 square feet, the applicant shall prepare and submit a survey of all the trees development lot subject to the following requirements. I do not want you all to panic. This does not mean that somebody has to go out and individually photograph every single little tree and mark it and write up an entire biography of that tree and the tree's grandparents. What we're talking about is a general, overall picture of what is happening on this lot. White Bluff is very fortunate that we still have a lot of heavily wooded areas. We want to maintain that. The tree inventory shall be prepared at the same scale as the landscaping plan, shall identify trees on development lot, approximate coverage, depict the trees to be retained in accordance with this section. Okay, so how do we figure this out? Tree inventories may be prepared by a landscape architect, surveyor, arborist, forester, or engineer registered with the state. Aerial or site photography may be substituted for the inventory if the photography provides adequate detail at the town's discretion to assess compliance with the section. That's huge. That means that number one, your local surveyor, anybody who is registered, an engineer that's registered with the state of Tennessee, somebody that you would have to have on your team anyway as part of your development team, is able to conduct these surveys. You do not have to go out and hire a registered arborist. You don't have to get a specialist. Somebody who's already going to be part of your team is able to do this. Alternatively, Google Maps is amazing. Tennessee Property Viewer is amazing. You can go in sometimes you can get current within a week photographs of the area that you're looking at. It's important, I think, in this, especially in part number 2 that we're going to get into, to have that ability. If you're coming in with a larger development, you're going to be having a landscape architect probably on staff anyway, because you're going to have landscaping plans that you're going to have compliance with. So there's any number of ways that this can be accomplished by using staff that you would already have, that a developer would theoretically already have as part of their development team. Part number 2, reviewed by the town. Any tree inventory prepared by a landscape architect, surveyor, arborist, forester, or engineer registered with the state and submitted to demonstrate compliance shall be deemed accurate concerning the calculation of existing trees as a percentage of the development or lot size. If they submit it and they've got their stamp on it, you will take that as the truth. It's their stamp. It's very easy. The town shall review a tree inventory submitted with any other party or resident to assess compliance with Table 605 concerning calculation of existing trees as a percentage of development lot size. It's very easy, again, to pull up photography. Someone says, well, this lot isn't, this lot's 100% wooded, or, it's only 50%. It's very easy to pull up and look a couple years forward, a couple years back, whatnot, to kind of assess conditions, so to speak. Number 3, existing tree protection during construction. During development, the applicant shall erect barriers necessary to protect existing or installed vegetation from damage during and after construction. That's pretty self-explanatory. Removal of protected trees in cases where tree clearing or removal, development work, land disturbance, part of construction, or intentional damage to trees occurs in violation of the standards of the section, the following shall apply. It goes into your general terms, very familiar, as with any other violation of the zoning ordinance, should be subject to subject to a $50 per day fine for each violation. Replanting would be required at a rate of 80 trees for each acre disturbed over the tree retention standards defined, or an inch-by-inch caliber replacement. Replacement trees shall have a minimum diameter breast height of 2 inches when planted, and replacement trees shall be maintained through an establishment period of at least 3 years. If they don't survive the period, the applicant shall purchase and install new replacement trees and reset the establishment period. Think of that like your maintenance bond. When you've got your maintenance period for a road, it's kind of like that, but for trees. On your permit procedures, before approval of any regulated activity of the ordinance, the town, the documents determined by the town as necessary to demonstrate compliance must be submitted to and reviewed by the town planner or the designee. The town planner or designee shall review all applicable plans or related documentation for conformance. Town planner will approve, return for revision, or deny the application. If denied, reasons for denial shall be annotated on the plans or otherwise stated in writing. It's the same with any other kind of plan check that's completed. No tree removal permit shall be issued until it's been determined that the proposed activity complies with the ordinance. For inspection, following the receipt of each required component of the completed tree removal application and supporting documents, the town can schedule and inspect the proposed development site. the applicant or designee is advised to the date and time and allowed to participate. After the approval process is completed, the building inspector, and/or arborist should have been renewed, I apologize. Same thing for part 3. The building inspector will inspect the site to ensure trees are adequately protected, and conduct on-site inspection to ensure compliance with the tree management plan. On fees, each applicant requesting a permit under the provisions of the ordinance shall deposit non-refundable fee with the town of White Bluff per the most recent municipal fee schedule. Then we get into our natural disaster emergencies and exemptions. Obviously, if there's a natural disaster, the rules of this ordinance would be suspended. You need to get in there to be able to clean up your property. Exemptions do include the removal of dead or naturally fallen trees or vegetation, select limited removal of trees, vegetation to maintain visibility, things that would just be, general housekeeping, so to speak. Actions of public and private utility companies within their utility easements are exempt. And the removal of trees listed in the current edition of invasive exotic pest plants, we want you to get rid of them. So that is encouraged. There's another section that addresses clear cutting and or timber harvesting is strictly prohibited.
The definition of timber harvesting.
Yes. So timber harvesting.
There's not, that's not good.
Yeah. Well,
Because I'm like, if you've got 100% coverage and you're gonna cut down 52%, I'd like you to be able to do something with that 52% of lumber.
Yeah. So there's not a definition, but knowing that this area is, primarily agriculture, right? I mean, so it depends on what your underlying zone is, first of all. And I know a lot of ag business is Andrew and I talked a lot about that, and I'll probably defer to him to get into the nitty gritty. But what this ordinance is intended to prevent is just going in and completely, absolutely, just bare earthing things. That's what this is intended to prevent. So if somebody wants to come in and they're compliant and they still maintain their tree standards, and they're just taking it off to sell, at this point I'm going to defer to legal.
But I agree with no clear cutting. I'm just saying, let's say we're approved.
On the timber part.
Yeah, you got 400 acres you're gonna develop, and you're gonna have to cut down 50% of that. That's a lot of trees.
It is a lot of trees, but if you're actually timber harvesting, they're probably specimen trees. You're not timber harvesting little 4-inchers.
That's why I was just wondering what the definition.
But yes, it's designed to prevent you from taking out the specimen trees. What you do is, 100%, you take out 42 of those acres. Do whatever you want with them. That's not what this is designed for. Yeah, if I can give you the 30-second summary. Keep your canopy, keep your big trees, or you have to get rid of them, you're going to have to plant a bunch of trees by the caliper inches. I imagine the biggest points that would probably generate debate are how much can you have to keep of your canopy.
Well, and I will be honest with you guys, I want everybody to understand this. This is part of the advantage of having our own planner that represents the city. If this was coming from anywhere else, I would not support it. Because, and we talked about this, and you guys know this, you could use this against developers and builders as a way to slow growth, which has been tried in the past, not here, but in other areas. A lot of my constituents are builders and developers, and so I'm going to have to answer to them if I vote yes on this thing. So, but I do trust that it is not to slow growth. I think, because if you look at, I won't name the persons out there, Fort Burns, back entrance of the park, didn't get approved for development, clear cut the piss out of it. Why? Because he's angry. I don't want that to happen either. Things that happened here, prime example, I voted for the PUD down from CB store. They clear cut everything. It's the easiest way to do. That's all fine and good, but what they're putting back, and I watched them do it the other day, are spruce and basically not very substantial hardy trees. So, I only have a couple of little, believe it or not, I've read this thing, I have a couple of little questions. So, I think Carl answered this. If you had to take out a specimen tree, you can. You just got to replace it. And so,
That's a lot of inches you got to replace.
well, and that's my thing. So technically, you know, if you look at a development that is 100% wooded and you've got 20 acres, all right, so you're going to end up having to leave 10 acres of trees. Is that basically but I could clear cut everything if I so desire, as long as, and I'm asking this question, so I can put back 2-inch trees until I get my canopy numbers back in the designated areas that I so desire, if clear cutting has to happen, right? If you're doing a PUD, and that would be my example, because when we develop, we cut as few trees as possible. It's not lucrative to cut the trees, spend the money to clean up all that. But when you're doing a massive PUD and you're going to try to make this plan work that you've had drawn, you know, what I do like is you would end up, by default, leaving the trees around, as we had discussed, the development, because it doesn't make sense to cut them down and have to buy them and put them back. The good part about that is, if I did have to cut trees in the center of that PUD, then I could go over into the nature area with the playground and plant back, you know. What this will do, and I do recognize this, which is one of those things I'm going to have to answer to, is it will somewhat decrease the amount that you can develop a tract. So if you've got 10 acres and you've got to leave 5 acres of trees, it's only understandable that you're probably going to lose some house footprints, because you've got to have enough room to get those 5 acres of trees back or leave them there. The only thing actually that I would ask of everything, and it's only because with the town that we have now, with the administration we have now, this is not a bad statement. And what I'm getting at is the aerial photography may be substituted for an inventory at the town's discretion. So right now, the town's discretion would be, yes, you can absolutely use the aerial photography. We're good with that. Our planner's good with that. If you get certain entities in here, they could use that against you to keep the growth from happening by saying we'll refuse the aerial photography because it's our discretion, which forces you to go to a landscape architect, surveyor, arborist, whatever, which would greatly increase your cost, which isn't going to matter on a PUD, but on a 5-acre development, it's going to kill the project, because those costs are going to be. So I would just like to remove the town's discretion so that future town administration doesn't use it as a weapon.
May I suggest a different?
Sure, absolutely, right there.
Better of such quality to be able to properly determine the inventory. Like, you don't want someone taking something off Google and it's so grainy you don't know what's there.
Oh, I would agree, but I think there needs to be
some minimum standard of how the aerial photography looks.
That would be fair enough.
If it meets that minimum standard, we will be
Perfect.
using it.
Yeah, that would be fine.
Can we be specific? Because, I mean, there's a lot of really high caliber drone companies out there that.
I mean, I would be okay with
even
a drone if that's what they wanted. If they weren't happy with the Google map, a drone would be fine.
Hiring a drone photographer is not hard.
No, it would be okay with us. And the only other thing that I wonder.
I mean, there's any number of free.
Right.
Well, but I'm thinking what would be free, what wouldn't be an extra cost.
Sometimes they're 5 years old.
Yeah.
So we need a current picture, and I'm okay with that. And the only, I mean, you know, basically, because what I'm going to take heat for is property rights, property owner rights. You know, it's my land. If I want to cut the trees, I should be able to cut the trees. This doesn't prevent that, though. If I've got, you know, for example, I've got 50 acres that's all wooded. I can go clear cut that next week if I want to, because I'm not asking for any kind of permits. It doesn't necessarily step on my rights as a property owner. It's only enforced when you come to get a development passed or rezoned or cut up and so I think I can argue that point.
I'm playing devil's advocate. What's to stop somebody from buying it, not asking for zoning, go ahead and clear cut it before they ask for anything, and then 6 months later come in and ask.
I've discussed that with some of my developers.
There's a
2 year, I think it is, 2 years, is that correct? I don't know. So if I clear cut it, which you could still do. I could clear cut the 50 acres, wait the 2 years, sell it for development. Do I think that's probably going to happen? No. I thought about that a lot. I've studied into that a lot, and I just don't think that's a lucrative, because this isn't really going to, yes, there's going to be some aggravations to this, but if you look at the development at McCory Lane, which is going to be a massive apartment development, they clear cut everything. They've just, I mean, but grade had to come up, and there's a whole bunch of, under this, they would have to go back. And my biggest thing that I do like about this, so, and this is what I'm going to try to use to overcome some of the naysayers, is if you take the PUD down from CB, which I'm still in favor of, and you did force them to leave a picture frame of that property with trees, you wouldn't have near the impact of the boom as you come down the highway. You would see trees instead of that development. So, you know, yes, you may lose a few home sites in a larger development. The only thing I do wonder is, like, so for me, let's say that we buy an acre lot that's existing. And like I said, we don't cut trees. If it's in the way of the house, we cut it. If it's not, we don't cut it. I'm still going to have to go through these guidelines with you guys to get the building permit, or no?
You're going to have to protect the trees that are there. I mean, I don't know what you do now.
Well, like now what we would do, let's say we buy an acre lot, and let's say that it's, the front half is clear, the back half is completely wooded. We won't touch the back half at all. So technically, we won't have to meet any guidelines because there's no guidelines to me because I'm not going to cut anything.
Right.
But I would still have to fall under I would still have to get the documentation to get my building permit from you guys.
Right.
Okay. That was just basically my question, because I do see this happen with developers, and they're not necessarily what I would call a good developer. They will come in on a 3-acre tract. You're going to build one house on the front. They will timber market the rest of it. So they'll cut it, sell it, build one house that trees weren't in the way in the first place. I don't see that as a business model that we would prefer, especially not in the city limits. And so if we can change that wording on that one particular item, then
We'll workshop that and bring it to you, but I wanted to clarify something, and we probably just need to clarify that at the top. There is an interpretation of this that this would apply to, if I'm not developing, but I'm just clear cutting, it would still apply. And that's if you need a permit. Now, that's over an acre, you have to go get a TDEC permit. Do you want that to apply here or not? I think that needs to be clear.
So let me ask you this question.
For this body to vote on.
So is that just for clear cutting, you would have to get permits?
Land disturbance over an acre is really probably would be the minimum. If you did something under an acre, you could probably get away with it.
So,
and then I'll add on top of that, in the development standards, you have to do the survey and all of that if it's over 2,500 square feet. So that extra requirement of having to come and get that documentation to the town is if you do a big disturbance. If you do a small disturbance, it would be just a complaint base. Like, if you then clear cut, we would have to come after you. You're only having to come to the town, correct me if you see it differently, if it's over 2,500 square feet of disturbance. But then back to the big applicability, the first paragraph. It says a permit. I'm going to interpret that of any permit, including TDEC. I probably want to clarify that. Or a town permit. You don't get a town permit to go cut trees on your land.
Right.
Do you want people to be able to do so?
So I've never known anybody, and maybe we're talking about two different things, I've never known anybody that has hired a timber company and cut their property to get any kind of permit, TDEC or anything. They just do it. Are they supposed to be getting a permit when they do that?
Well, they're not land disturbing. If you're grading.
Okay, so if you're just cutting timber and you're not grading,
No, you're not.
you're okay. Okay. Yeah, I don't, well, and some of the things we've talked about, like, and I'll use Mr. Spook for example. So over there where our new little PUD's going over there in Greenfield, where it was just a dirt field, I remember he cut the trees, he sold the dirt, so he would have had to gotten a TDEC permit, because he did move a huge amount of dirt there. So we could possibly prevent stuff like that from happening, because what will happen is they basically, you know, molest the land and then they just walk away, which is what he did and has done. And I would like to prevent that, because, you know, even as a developer, that's not something I think is a good business practice at all. I mean, it doesn't.
Development of the area.
Yeah, it hurts the city, absolutely.
I mean, and the other way to think about it, because so my family, we're multi-generational tree farmers in Arkansas. So,
Right.
you know, I've got to delve into this a little bit, but You want it done in the county. I mean, that's my personal opinion, that's not your town attorney talking. It's, in a city, you're gonna have more restrictions.
Right.
We don't have ag zoning.
True.
We have ag uses, which get exemptions under state law, but we don't have ag zoning, and that's for a reason. The ag is in the county. So I think it's generally a policy decision, but you probably don't want to allow large swath clear cutting. It kills your canopy for the town.
It does, yes.
In an area that's already designed to be more densely developed than the county, do you want that? And again, it's up to this body to determine, but I just want to be very clear in this, so we're 5 years down the road, someone clear cuts a 5-acre tract and starts complaining to us, do we have the teeth to go after them? I just want to be very clear on what this body wants, the language to reflect your will.
I mean, I would prefer they not clear cut. That's just my, and like I say, there's gonna be developers that argue that point with me, but as far as my outlook, as far as me being, trying to protect the city, I don't think that's a good practice.
Does it have anything to do too, could it hurt, like we have a major stormwater problem here, yeah, and we use.
Oh, it helps a lot.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so taking down those trees, everything, and then you just got flat, clear land, the water has nowhere to go, nothing to soak it up.
Well,
Yeah.
that's why
Erosion,
TDEC
ionized.
requires a permit over an acre because of the danger of polluting your waterways
Mhm.
from runoff.
That makes sense.
It can go hand in hand with that. So if I'm, again, I know it's kind of Councilman Hill, you and I talking, but is everybody comfortable with updated language to say no clear cutting over an acre, basically, is what we would probably trigger this for?
I mean, I'm okay with that within the city. I think if we're talking county, I might have a difference of opinion on that, but in the city, because it's gonna affect somebody's neighbor somewhere. We're too closely intertwined for it not to.
Is this something that could be tabled to the July meeting? Because, I do have some questions as well about things like fees, replacement trees, how would we enforce that? So, because we do have so much on the agenda already, could we take this up in July?
Mayor, Jeff, I have no objection usually.
Do you just want us to take it off, or do you want to get to it in Tuesday night and just say, I make a motion to table?
Make a motion to table it Tuesday night.
Okay, so we'll leave it on the agenda,
Yes,
but then,
Because I think there's going to be some more questions about this, and maybe we can talk about it before Tuesday, but if not, it might need to go to July.
Or I would suggest August, because you're still going to have budget and some other items
Yes.
on July.
Yes.
So if this is one of a couple items on the work session, that might be, I guess, yeah.
Okay, cool, thank you.
so we'll leave it on there, and then y'all will decide, okay?
Vote to when you want to hear it again.
Yeah.
Good.
I have a couple of questions.
On this, on the woodland thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Timber harvest. There's several degrees of timber harvest. Why is it strictly prohibited along with clear cutting? They're two different things.
So again, I think that was part of the discussion we were having earlier. It would be anything over an acre of land disturbance, where you would need a permit of any kind is the applicability of this ordinance change. If you went out and harvested timber and didn't clear cut or grade or anything, I don't think this would apply. Now, if this body has a different intent, we need to make that clear in the language, but if you want to go thin your trees or go through some other process, I think you could, but you're also going to create a problem if you try to come in and get a permit within a 2-year period. So you can harvest your trees, but then you come in for a permit, we're going to look at what it looked like 2 years ago, and you're going to have to plant a lot of trees.
And that's one thing I do like, is it doesn't step on your feet as a property owner. If I want to cut some trees off my land like you're talking about, but then if I'm doing
It's going to be
that,
harder for you to get a permit, or more expensive, really, with all the.
or I've got to wait it out, I mean, that's,
Well, here's the problem I have with that, is timber harvesting is not just a monetary thing. It's a maintenance thing. It's like, they're having fires in California because they weren't maintained. So, we had ours selectively harvested, and it took care of some big trees, but it needed to be done so the other trees can come up, so.
I do not disagree with you, because I do that, so.
Right, no, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And let me ask you this, the Hornell Road project has been clear cut, 20 acres, clear cut. Would this have stopped that?
Well, again, I think that gets back to, we're kind of on the knife's edge of what this body wants. And do you want stuff like that stopped or not? Because if you're not grading and you're not removing, as Amanda talked about earlier, all vegetation from the earth, scorched earth, there's an argument this doesn't apply.
That is a perfect example of scorched earth, if you just go look at it.
Was there grading done, though?
Oh, yeah, they got biggest dozers I've
Okay,
ever seen.
then yes, then it would. If you're just going out, if there's a timber harvester going out and removing 100 trees from the property and not really disturbing, you're going to disturb the earth some, but not in a grading sense, this probably wouldn't apply right now, and that's kind of the sense I'm getting. But if you do full-on grading over an acre, you would be barred from doing that.
So let me ask the question off of his question. So if I'm right, you guys correct me, so they could still do what they're doing if they put back the trees they took in percentage. They can still cut everything there if they put back what, so they could still do it, but they're gonna have to spend the money to put back what they took. So that might prevent them from doing it in the first place.
Plus they're subject to a fee, $50 per day until eternity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the fines. And again, it would depend on the situation. If you're just blowing past this and grading 20 acres, I would argue you can't just put the trees back. I think the penalty is going to be harsher.
Well, but do you think, one of the things we discussed was if you had to for grade, I don't think that's the case there, but if you had to bring up grade 3 foot, you're going to have to cut the trees, because if you pile the dirt on them, they're going to die. But that would have to be pre-approved in the
Right,
planning
that's
process.
part of your plan, because you're grading over an acre.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, and you got to be careful, because you're balancing property rights with
Right.
protecting the tree canopy and specimen trees. And that's hard. It's not easy. Y'all are bringing up wonderful examples. But how about, for sake of it's 9:30, if I may, Mayor, y'all shoot questions over to Jeff, Amanda, and I, and let's workshop this.
Yes.
And probably get it, we'll leave it on the agenda, but let's punt it probably to the
Okay.
August agenda, and we'll get to it.
I agree. I think everybody, we gotta just probably getting sleepy, and gotta wake up. Okay, on down to.
Can I finish? Should have brought coffee.
Oh, I thought
I
we
would
were.
just like to say this is great. I appreciate this. The day ain't a dollar short.
Well, more of it could happen.
Okay, now 8, discuss first reading zoning ordinance revision regarding access management minimum standards.
All right, Mayor, this is a one-pager. This would be changing our zoning ordinance. One thing we realized we did not have was access minimum standards. The biggest points to take away are, in that subsection B there, if you're at between 1 and 30 dwelling units in a development, you have 1. That's the minimum access point, entrance into the subdivision. Once you hit 31, you have to have 2. And then once you hit 150, you have to have 3. Part of this is also in line with the fire codes. We were happy to kind of get those regulations in line. Multifamily, 1 to 100 units, 1 access point. Once you hit 100 multifamily units, you've got to have 2. You've got parking spaces for commercial, so if you're 30 or under, it's 1, 30 plus, it's 2. And they have to be far enough apart. That last section, if you want to read it, basically, however big your site is, you have to take half of the diameter, kind of radius, and the second or more entrance has to be away from that. So you can't just put 3 entrances all next to each other and say, I have 3 access points. It doesn't count. They have to be far enough apart. So we realized with a lot of past and possible future that we don't have this, and that you don't want a 1,000-house development with 1 entrance. And I've seen them, and I've dealt with one, and the traffic is a nightmare that you cannot fix without spending an insane amount of money. It has to be on the development side. It has to be on the planning side. So this would be a zoning ordinance amendment. First reading is Tuesday. We're going to have a public hearing and second reading in July if y'all allow it to go through.
I love this question, additional question on top of this, because I love everything about this and the direction it's going. What about parking requirements, because some of the issues that I'm noticing that I've seen in some of our townhouse developments, to build a townhouse, and there's not enough parking for guests, and so you're gonna end up with too many people parking on the street.
That is a great concern in a completely different section. If you want us to workshop it, we can.
I would ask you to, not because of anything that we know or anything like that, but I would ask that you don't table this one and move forward with it if you like it.
This one's a little more critical with it being the fire code and stuff like that. We don't want anything.
Most of my developers I've talked to are happy with that. They're not, that's not an issue.
Okay, moving on down to 9, discuss offer irrevocable dedication accepting the Cherokee Drive Extension and Cherokee Court. It's in Diller Hills Estate, Section G, F Town Streets, and maintenance bond of $21,000. This is Cherokee Drive over in Diller Hills. Yeah.
It's the new extension of Cherokee Drive and Cherokee Court. This one, we talked about it in a work session a few months ago, but we just got all the pieces together. So, codes has looked at it, streets has looked at it, it looks good. We would recommend that you go ahead and accept the streets, and then we have a a one-year maintenance bond in place.
So this would turn it into an official public street, and y'all take, it's just a vote, so that's all that's on there.
Okay. 10, discuss resolution acknowledging receipt and endorsing the 2044 White Bluff Comprehensive Plan.
I have a resolution for this. That's what I passed out earlier in your packet. That's the second thing in there. But, I mean, honestly, anybody can talk about it, but we talked about it in the PC meeting if you have questions, but this was the whereas is actually kind of encompass it pretty well. We did the 2020 beginning of the plan, we had the 2023 Dixon County plan, which we and Burns and the city of Dixon were part of. There was a desire by this body, hey, let's make a White Bluff specific plan. That was done. It's Jeff, Amanda, Councilman Kincaid, and come up with a good Debbie Brewer, Commissioner Debbie Brewer. And so that's the document you saw or should have seen. And, legally, the Planning Commission adopted it. It used to be used by the town. I'm asking this body to endorse it. It will not be law. It can be used, but it can't be used against us. We can have a conversation offline on why that's important, but I'm asking this body to acknowledge receipt and endorse it. And if there's any questions or more comments about it, I think it looks great.
Other than, again, I just want to thank Amanda for taking the lead on that. She did a great job.
And Amanda, as late as it is, and all that talking, you have to do everything, and you didn't put anybody to sleep. That's great.
Except for myself.
So we're gonna throw this B budget away.
I wouldn't say throw it away just yet.
Oh, God, Stephanie says don't throw it away. Oh, okay.
Adjourned?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
We have another meeting runs this long, we better have drinks.
No, it's better you stay longer. You don't get to.
Maybe with that.
I'm gonna talk to you, Linda.